2-minute warning. Y'all are so quiet and well behaved already. Is it mostly staff? That's why they want me to be fast. Who brought in all the cookies? County manager. Did you see who brought in all these cookies?
The legal department.
Thank you. Are these from the new DeLand business cookies?
Yes.
Never mind. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I will call this next section of the meeting to order. This is just a continuation of our morning meeting. It's item 25. Let me just tell you what the schedule is so everybody knows what to expect, because this is a public hearing, and I'll open the public hearing. But before we call the public that wants to speak, we're going to start with our county manager, George Rechtenwald, to tell us the purpose of the meeting. And then we'll have a presentation and tentative budget by Aaron Van Cleek of Management and Budget, and Ryan Osowski, the Chief Financial Officer. And they will discuss millage rates, tentative budget, and then after that, when you know what's laid out, we'll have the public participation. So it's going to be a little while. And I just didn't want everybody to think you were going to be overlooked, because I know a lot of people have bothered to come out. So with that, County Manager George Rechtenwald, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Honorable Council. Yes, today the purpose of this public budget hearing is to go over our budget for the 21-22 fiscal year, and we'll go over the elements of the budget, and eventually leading to the reading of the millage rates for each of the tax funds. So a lot of focus today will probably be on the general fund, but there are other funds that we must also read into the record. This is one of 2 hearings. I think that's important for everyone to understand that the final decisions really are made at the second meeting. So today, a little bit more about getting everything on the record of where we're at and where the budget's at today. And then, we'll, of course, as you said, we'll hear from the public. And we'll also, a big purpose of today also is to set the final meeting on September 21st, which will do that, and you council will vote on that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Van Cleek, and he's going to go through the presentation.
All right, good evening, Council. Aaron Van Cleek, Management and Budget Director. So like George said, today we're going to go over the budget overview and tentatively set the millage rates in the second and final budget hearing. So while this isn't a completely detailed list, these are some of the cost increases that have impacted Volusia County's decisions during the 21-22 budget process. We have the $15 minimum wage mandate that was approved by the voters. This will continue to have an effect on Volusia County while we work towards the mandated minimum for our staff. And then current and future impacts from external organizations that do business with Volusia County are expected as well, as they will have to deal with this mandate. We also have increased demands for staffing in our public safety operations. For the 21-22 budget, we are adding 2 EMTs, 2 paramedics, 2 ambulance supply technicians, 6 corrections officers, 1 corrections analyst, 9 firefighters, and 1 fire inspector. There are additional plans forecasted to add more staff to these areas in future years as well. We have inflation in our health insurance contributions of 6%. This inflation affects the employer and the employer contributions with a 6% increase. For employer and employee contributions with a 6% increase. For 21-22, we are faced with a 6.8% increase in state mandated retirement contributions. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, we have inflation in goods and materials, less food and energy of 8.7%. We have energy inflation such as fuel and electricity that's at 24.5%. We have contracted services inflation rate of 3.1%. And according to the Associated General Contractors of America, there is a 12.8% inflation in construction input cost. This pie chart shows the Volusia County's total operating revenue of $960,999,531. CRAs, which are ad valorem taxes collected by Volusia County and distributed to the community redevelopment areas, are ad valorem taxes retained by Volusia County, represent $316,819,282, or 33% of the total operating revenue. Appropriated fund balance represents 36.9%, and that appropriated fund balance is the balance within our operating funds that is brought forward from the prior year. The appropriated fund balance is used to fill reserves, as you can see on the slide right there next to it. Our budgeted reserves for 21-22 in our operating funds are set at $300,198,615, which means we are using $54,696,687 of our fund balance within our operating funds to balance this budget. Charges for services would be the next largest operating revenue at $104,088,280, or 10.8%. This pie chart takes a look at the ad valorem tax revenue by fund. The ad valorem taxes are broken into 2 categories for Volusia County. We have county-wide and we have special districts. The county-wide ad valorem taxing funds include the general fund, the library fund, and the voter-approved taxing funds of Volusia Forever and ECHO. The general fund is the county's largest taxing fund. It provides funding for operations such as the Volusia Sheriff, the Corrections Division, Coastal, Parks, Finance, IT, Community Services, and Leadership, as well as subsidy funding to EMS, Votran, and Economic Development. The general fund accounts for 67.37%, or $213,443,758 of the total ad valorem revenue collected. The Volusia County Special Districts include the Municipal Service District, the Fire Rescue District, East Volusia Mosquito Control, Ponce de Leon and Port District, and the Silver Sands Bethune MSD. These districts are geographically limited and are only charged to property owners within the specified district boundaries. The Fire Rescue District is the next largest taxing fund for Volusia County. This tax provides fire rescue services to the unincorporated areas of Volusia County and represents 10.35%, or $32,789,591 of the total ad valorem revenue collected. Again, CRAs are ad valorem revenues collected by Volusia County and subsequently distributed to the appropriate CRA. CRAs represent 2.68%, or $8,483,205 of the total ad valorem revenue collected. This pie chart shows you the total operating expenditures by department, and again, it balances to the operating revenues of $960,999,531. As you just saw from the operating revenue slide, only 33% of these expenses are funded by ad valorem revenue. Public Works represents 23.09% or $221,870,334 of the total operating expenditures. However, the majority of Public Works is not funded by ad valorem revenues. Transportation revenues such as gas taxes and impact fees fund road and bridge, construction engineering, traffic engineering. We have water and sewer user fees that are used to fund the water resources and utilities operation of Public Works. We have the landfill and transfer station operations that represent a large portion of Public Works and are funded by non-ad valorem assessments and user fees. Community Services represents 14.32% or $137,394,033 of the total operating expenditures. And this includes Volusia and Forever in this slice of the pie. Volusia, Forever, and Echo account for 33.9% or $46,533,583 of the total community service operating expenditures. The Aviation and Economic Resources operating expenditures of $63,191,010 or 6.58% are mostly representative of the airport operations, which represent $51,783,932 or 81.9% of that total. The Office of the Sheriff and Public Protection, which represents 29.02% of the total operating expenditures, are funded mainly from the general fund and MSD ad valorem revenues. Important to note on this slide is the tax collector and property appraiser amounts that are listed in this chart represent Volusia County's statutorily required commissions paid to those offices and do not represent their complete budget. This pie chart's another one that council has seen before in the past. It's just updated based on the changes we made at the August 31st meeting. And it shows the reoccurring expenditures in the general fund of $280,781,746 broken out by category. External expenses and support, which includes funding for the Office of the Sheriff, Supervisor of Elections, Clerk of Court, Medicaid payments, Department of Health, Drug Abuse and Mental Health, as well as the commissions paid to the property appraiser and tax collector, represent 47.6% or $133,692,920 of the total reoccurring expenses in the general fund. Public protection is the next largest reoccurring expense in the general fund at 26.6% or $74,719,531. General fund public protection includes corrections, emergency management, countywide fire services, the medical examiner, beach safety operations, and the EMS support subsidy. The remaining 25.8% of the reoccurring expenses in the general fund are broken down as follows. You have 12.7% for operational support at $35,574,918. That's for business services, facilities, finance, information technology, leadership, and human resources. 10.3% or $29,100,229 are for other county operations, which include community services, parks, recreation and culture, growth and resource management, and public works, which consists mainly of coastal in the general fund. 2.8% or $7,757,148 are for subsidies to Votran and economic development. This slide shows the increased revenue and the increased expenses that are currently budgeted for in the general fund for fiscal year 2021-22. The revenue generated from property taxes on new construction totals $5,175,298. This number includes the 4% early payment discount and potential VAB changes. VAB is Value Adjustment Board changes. It is true that this amount would be earned even at the rollback rate. However, it is far different from the 11 million number that has been publicized. The additional revenue generated from the partial rollback rate of 5.3812, which council set at the August 31st council meeting, special meeting, totals $7,342,784. Again, this number does account for the 4% early payment discount, and this does represent a 1.3% decrease from the 2020-2021 rate of 5.4500. The increased revenue is attributable to reassessments capped at 1.4% for homestead residents in 2021. Non-property tax revenue increases are budgeted at $1,676,366. And then finally, we are using reserves of $5,201,390 to balance the budget for the fiscal year 2021-22 for a total revenue increase of $19,395,838. The expenses are increased by that same amount, and the increase is broken down as follows. The constitutional offices and courts are increased $13,338,633, which is a 15.2% increase over prior year. The county increases are $6,057,205, which represent a 3.3% increase over prior year. This slide gives you a recent history of the general fund millage rate that has been approved each year. The last time the rate was increased was from 2013 to 2014. The rate was then kept flat for 3 years before being reduced in FY17, and we have had a rate reduction in the general fund in each of the last 4 years. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, who will talk to you about rankings.
Good evening, council members.
Good evening.
Often we've been quoted as having a tax rate in the top 15% of the country. Previously standing here, I presented my own statistics that I did by pulling the 2017 census data, but I wanted to make it simpler than that. From the National Tax Foundation, a nonprofit that specializes in analyzing tax burdens at the federal, state, and local levels. On this page here that's linked here, you can see Florida's ranking. We are ranked 25th in property taxes paid as a percentage of owner-occupied housing value, and ranked 29th in tax collections per capita. Now these are the statewide averages. Again, this is the same chart, or one of the charts where it shows we're ranked 29th statewide. So where does that mean for Volusia County? According to Florida Tax Watch, which is the premier group that ranks counties in tax burden. Also, this is the group that famously puts out every year for the state budget, the Budget Turkey Report you may have read about in the press. The box has been moved from where I previously had it when the presentation was, but we are ranked 21st in the state from the latest edition of the Florida Tax Watch, which is below the statewide number shown right between 18 and 19. So if Volusia County, if the state of Florida, according to the Tax Foundation, is 25th and 29th on the various metrics in the middle of the country, and we are below the statewide average, these are the external numbers, not my numbers, nonprofits numbers that specialize in this, that shows we're below the statewide average, and the statewide average is in the middle of the country. So how is it possible that we're in the top 15%? I've already presented about how taxrates.org has a -1 ranking for several counties in Florida, which is indicative of bad data. Not saying that there's anything that website is doing on purpose, but they just don't have complete data. If some of the counties are ranked -1 in these areas that we're being quoted on, and you have these the National Tax Foundation, and you have Florida Tax Watch showing that Florida is in the middle, and we're below the statewide middle. I'm going to hand it back over to Aaron now.
So again, this is another one that council has seen in the past. This gives you a look at the taxable value for residential improved properties in Volusia County.
Okay. We skipped
Hold on
a
one
slide. Could, we skipped through a slide, so we had, Ryan, if you could just address the slide before this, would you mind?
It's another ranking slide.
Back up one.
Yes.
So this ranking takes the State Department of Revenue, DOR, and they put out where the counties and the cities rank in terms of property taxes from a state perspective out of the 67 counties. This is another one that we have shown at, I think, the TRIM meeting. So in population, we rank 11th in the state at 16.4%. Taking the total millage, including the cities and independents, we rank 6th at 9%. On the cities and independents, it is an aggregated millage, so it's not just what their millage rate is. It considers if it was the millage for the entire area. So there's a little bit of math involved with that to get us to that 6th. And then county government millage, if you were to take out our independents and our cities, we would rank 42nd at 62.7%. At taxes per resident, we rank 35th with an average of $548.22 per resident. And this was data directly from the Department of Revenue Property Tax Oversight.
Thank you. I just wanted you to address the statewide because we addressed federal. Thank you.
So again, this is just showing you how the taxable value of residential improved properties, with 67.5% of the properties falling under $149,000 in taxable value. So this is the slide that we will leave up when we read the millage rates into record and you guys have your votes. Before we turn it to public participation, I will point out that the proposed millage rate for FY 21-22 has been updated to 5.3812 based on the August 31st special council meeting. The library rate is at the flat millage rate of 0.5174. Volusia Forever and Volusia Echo were both presented at 0.2000. Mosquito control is represented at the flat rate of 0.1781. Ponce Inlet Port Authority District is at the rollback rate of 0.0845. The Municipal Service District is at the flat rate of 2.1083. And Silver Sands Bethune MSD is at the flat rate of 0.0144, with Fire Rescue at the flat rate of 3.8412. And we do have a total operating budget of $960,999,531 and a non-operating budget of $185,307,854.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for them? As the you have a I don't have a stack yet. You must have a few.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
One of you, on the first page actually, the cost increases, you had talked about the increased staffing. Could you tell me again what staffing we're increasing?
Absolutely. So we have 2 EMTs, 2 paramedics, 2 ambulance supply technicians, 6 corrections officers, 1 corrections analyst, 9 firefighters, and 1 fire inspector. The fire inspector is a part-time position, just for your knowledge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, we will start with the public participation, and I'm going to call these in order. The council will not be surprised that the first person to sign up would be John J. Nicholson. And when I call your name, just come up to the microphone. If you're wearing a mask, you can remove the mask while you speak. Just tell us your name and your city of residence so that we know where you are in Volusia County, and you will have 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
John Nicholson, Daytona Beach side. I'm going to be the only one in the room and the only one downstairs that's going to ask you to keep the 5.45. The reason why I'm asking that is because people downstairs and living in our community think you're flush with cash. that you have so much extra cash that we can go to the rollback, which is why you go to the rollback, because you don't need the money. When I attended your meetings earlier, and occasionally I do come to the county council meetings, and I did attend your budget workshops, there was almost $7 million in increased salary or monies. So you did make $7 million more this year than last year. However, you also needed $22 million in additional fees that we don't have. So if you mathematically subtract $22 million from $7 million, there's not a whole heck of a lot of money for rollback. And people here are assuming that that $7 million is the only thing that they have to worry about. You do have to worry about other things. They don't know that coming down the pike is an $8 million a year, each and every year, for Sunrail. They're not aware of that. But you are. You know you have to deal with that. You all realize it's $3 million. They don't know that. But $3 million each and every year, it added on to make that $15 an hour. Where's that funding going to come from? So when you look at the figures, you have no option, if you're doing what's right for the county, to keep it at 5.45 regardless. You know how the newspaper says you have to do rollback or else you won't get elected? Well, at this point, you really can't worry about getting reelected. You have to do what's best for the county. I know the people downstairs. Many of them are from Daytona Beach. Many of them are Sons of the Beach. But they're seeing certain numbers and you're seeing other numbers. They don't see the numbers that you have seen. They've been told you're flush with all this funds. You're not. You're taking $5 million out of reserve. You can't be flush with funds if you're taking $5 million out of reserve. And you will take more out of reserve next year when you don't have the COVID funds. And then what happens the year after when you need the $8 million and you take even more money out of reserve? At some point, the reserves are going to dry up. And then you're going to be stuck. I told you, Daytona Beach did the rollback and we 27% tax increase. I don't want a 27% tax increase for Volusia County. Please, I know they're my friends, but please do what's good for the county. Thank you.
Kevin Captain, let me ask you a question real quick. I'm calling these in order. Some of these are downstairs, or is a way I can tell who's down, so I can call 6 names at a time? And
we do have a list running. They're all in order by which they have been received, and we are addressing the names downstairs, and we're bringing them up at about six people at a time.
okay, so you don't need me to call 6 at a time. You have the same order as I do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We do.
Thank you. Richard Kane. This is going to go faster. Suzanne Schreiber.
Oh, there she is.
Good evening. Suzanne Schreiber, Ormond Beach. I wasn't expecting to go second, so this is a surprise. We have many impaired waterways in Volusia County, and yet the council reduced resource management. I heard staff say a project was being considered for placement of clams in the river. I don't believe anyone asked about the project on August 31st. I support fully funding quality water projects and water testing in the lagoon across the county. On another note, I have personally attended Green Volusia programs and know the wealth of information on how our natural environment becomes damaged. I support funding the director's position and recommend calling it the Clean Water Director for the public to understand what the position is about. I'm suggesting taking her valuable position a step further and have her educate all elected officials on how our waterways become impaired and our natural environment becomes damaged. I support full rollback of taxes. I oppose the $8.2 million in incentives set aside for infrastructure to corporations coming from our taxes. When growth isn't paying for itself and the type of development we receive damages our natural environment and lowers our quality of life, I'm opposing our tax dollars being given away as incentives. What is the value of our paradise? In addition, I support raising the impact fees. Please vote for full rollback of taxes by cutting incentives and stop reducing our quality of life. Clean water matters, people matter, and actions speak loudly. Thank you for your time. And thank you to staff.
Donna Pippin.
Do I need to state my name and address like I do for the city? Same thing? Okay. I'm Pepin at 416 North, Blue Lake Terrace, DeLand, Florida, and I am in the county. And I just have to say that was beautifully said, Susan. Basically, what I'm saying is in support of what she's saying. I ask, please fully fund our clean water and sustainability programs. Don't piecemeal and cut things like that out. Any positions that support education and supervision of water are critical. We are nothing without water. We are nothing. If something happens to our water, it will bring us to our knees. Like California with the fires, our homes will be useless if something happens to our water. So I just ask that you consider that in any budget items, and education is critical. You know, I went swimming at Blue Springs yesterday, and it was like heaven. I dive into the cave and come back up and just, I mean, I call that my blue church, because, you know, that's where I go and talk to God. And if something happens to our waterways, we're nothing.
I see Richard Kane was just brought up from downstairs, so we'll give you your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I'm here as a self-appointed representative for the delinquent taxpayers. And this is the tax roll and tax certificates that were sold this year for 20 taxes. I'm sure you all are somewhat familiar with it, and most of these are your constituents. So if you're increasing taxes this year, you're just going to add to these persons' problems and inability to pay. I think it's good reason to know that a tax increase is going to be a hardship in these times. You've got a good city manager, county manager, but you've given him no direction. What you have before you is the staff's wish list of the numbers that they would like to have to operate in their opinion. You're the policymakers, and you need to say to them, it's our policy this year to go to rollback, and George can do it. Just let George do it. So I ask you strongly, and of course, you know, rollback will give you an additional $5 million to work with. The rollback is a complex formula, and you're not going to go broke. You're going to get $5 million more with the same millage that we have this year. You see all the new apartments, you see the Amazon building, you see what's happening out here. They're all taxpayers. So please respect that. Thank you.
Vernon Current, and I'm going to call several at a time so people can be ready. Ron Edmonds, Chuck Collins.
Good evening, Chairman Brower, council people. My name is Vernon Current. I live in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And I did review a good portion of this budget. And if each and every one of you council members with the respective departments doing your due diligence, go through all these increases, line item by line item. There's no reason you cannot do a complete rollback. So by doing this, you're going to have accountability with all your respective taxpayers, and you're going to have transparency that you are representing them in your respective fields. Thank you.
Ron Edmonds?
Thank you, Council Chair and Council members, for giving me the time to come and speak. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach here. I'm not going to bog you down in the details. You know, quite some time ago, I realized that I really enjoyed the simple beauty and power of a concise quote. And one of my favorites is, "Don't build me a clock, just tell me the time." Although we'll probably never know the true author of that paraphrased little gem, I'm sure it was originally directed at either a politician or a lawyer. And here's some of my favorite quotes. I think you'll remember them. You'll probably like them. "The government cannot give to anybody anything that the government does not first take from someone else." That's from Adrian Rogers, American Southern Baptist pastor and a conservative author. Next, "When the people are afraid of the government, that's tyranny. But when the government is afraid of the people, that's liberty." That's Thomas Jefferson, American statesman, principal author of our Declaration of Independence, and the third president of the United States. "As government expands, liberty contracts." Ronald Reagan, American actor, governor, and 40th president of the United States. "A government big enough to give everything you want is a government big enough to take from you everything that you have." Gerald Ford, 38th president of the United States. "The duty of a true patriot is to protect his country from its government." Thomas Paine, English-born American political activist. And I'm going to give a shout out to Hollywood here in just a second. "I fear that all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with resolve." That was said by 3 different actors in the role of Japanese Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto in the movies Tora Tora Tora, Midway, and Pearl Harbor. And although history does not document this as actually being said, it makes a very understandable statement, and I think it's very appropriate to what's happening in our county, our state, and our country, as we witness the ever-growing number of citizens who are rebelling against out-of-control government. And I saved the best for last, and I know all of you know this by heart. "We the people." That was written by founding fathers, patriot citizens, and it's found in the opening line of the Constitution of our United States of America. So I strongly encourage each and every one of you to open your eyes and ears and acknowledge that the passive acceptance of the business as usual attitude of governance by elected self-described elite has not only been exposed for everyone to see, it is actively being confronted by we the people. Think about the crowd of patriots you had to walk through to get into this building this evening. Look at the box that now sits on your desk. That box holds 3,114 individually signed petitions by patriots requesting that you vote for a full rollback. So I guess the question is, do you want credence? Do you want to give credence to the opinion that all elected officials are self-serving, self-absorbed, self-righteous, power-driven, votes for hire? And you want to rely on the apathy, passivity, and fear of your constituents to keep you on your path to whatever your personal goals may be? Or do you want to be part of what may be the greatest patriots awakening of our country has ever witnessed by doing the right thing instead of the easy thing? Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck Collins.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Collins, and I live in Ormond Beach. And after that lengthy speech, mine is going to be short. We really gathered here because of high concern, not only because of the millage increase, but because most of our concerns are falling on deaf ears. So just let me close by this. December 16, 1773, It was the start of us, U.S. citizens. It was called the Boston Tea Party. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Debbie Curley. Can you read that?
Here she comes.
Mike Walker. Debbie's here, coming? Okay, I just want to call out a few. Yeah, it looks like Alice.
Maybe not.
Alice Serbunky in Ormond Beach. But first we have Debbie Curley. Is she in the room? Yes. Just come on down. Tell us your name, what city you live in, and
My name is Debbie Curley. I live in DeLand. And I first want to say thank you for hearing your constituents, listening to us. I know a lot of people have emotions with this, and I'm trying not to be emotional, but I understand you all have poured hours into this budget. But I'm sure you have found areas that could be cut. I know myself, I've read the 380 plus mentioned. There's over 3,000 signatures of people that are hurting. I walk door to door and I talk to them, and they are hurting when their taxes go up. They can't put food on the table, but yet their taxes are going up. So I just want you to think of those constituents, especially Mrs. Gertman, because I hit your area and I listen to those people. That's all I have to say. Please roll back.
Mike Walker, is that you?
Yes, thank you. Mike Walker, Port Orange, Florida. I've failed Community Speaking 101, so please bear with me a minute. Thank you for your time. I bought a home in 2018 in Port Orange, Florida, and it was previously owned and there was no homestead on the home. So of course, because of the 3% stop from homestead, the taxes got pretty high. We were able to afford it. We loved the home. We did put homestead on the home. But now isn't the time to raise the taxes because we got hit pretty hard with COVID last year. So there wasn't a lot of money flow going on. We're making it and we're able to put it together. But it also impacted a lot of people in the community that we live in. So I'd just like you to reconsider full rollback on the taxes to help the people that did get hit with COVID and their problems, trying to sustain just a living right now. I know new home sales are up. They're up way high, as we know, and I think that's going to generate some more of the property taxes that we need to fill this budget that you're trying to fill. So I just want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Is Alice here? Yes. And I'm sorry with your name, but we're going to hear how it's really pronounced in a second.
My name is Alice Arbuckle, Arbuckle. Yes, I just would like for you guys to consider the people who are on fixed incomes. You know, there's so many of us, including me. We don't expect to get any raises except what the Social Security gives us. And you know how little that is. And you know how everything else is going up. I mean, from gas to food, everything, insurance. And I just feel like if you can find it in your heart to consider people who have even less than I do. I mean, I retired from nurses back in 2002, and back then I'd worked at the same place for 26 years, and I retired at $26 an hour. So you know I don't have a whole lot of retirement from that. And that plus Social Security is my income. So, and like I say, there's plenty of people who don't have any kind of retirement except Social Security. And so I just wish you would consider these people. And, you know, we just can't earn more. And so if you can find it in your hearts, please do the full rollback and don't increase our taxes. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Maureen Letta. You'll be followed by Paul Kitchen and Tom Abbott.
Thank you. That was so heartfelt. My heart is beating so fast. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Good evening, everybody. I'm Maureen Letta, and I live in Port Orange, unincorporated Volusia County. And I'm glad that you're all here. And I want to quote something. Better government, new thinking, teamwork instead of infighting, and sensible solutions to the problems we face. These are not talking points or cliches. These are the guiding principles I'll use to streamline county finances so we can keep our taxes affordable, safeguard our natural resources, improve how we manage growth, and strengthen our economic climate. This was a quote from someone's palm card, and I voted for him. I have lived in Volusia County for nearly 18 years and rarely looked at my proposed tax bill. Just paid it on time and trusted that the council was doing their best to keep taxes low. I think I know what may happen here tonight with your vote to go with the proposed 5.4 millage rate, but I'm here as a concerned citizen. Today, since 9:30 in the morning, you've been listening. You've been listening and you voted on 24 items at the public hearing. As well as a council discussion tonight, we're going to adopt a tentative millage rate on the general fund and a tentative budget for Volusia County's master plan, economic and financial vitality. Serving in the Volusia County Council is an honor, not a career. It's not about politics or political persuasion. It's about listening and responding to your county manager, to Ryan, to Aaron, and our voices. And unfortunately, many people pay no attention to a couple $100s or more. If they're like me, they simply pay their taxes, put more money in. I often attend council meetings, present or online, and watch each of you. I've called many county employees, and everyone has answered my questions. I still wondered, with unbridled development and now more non-homesteaded properties than homesteaded in Volusia County, I am for reductions. I want only needed staff and services that our beautiful county provides. Please let me repeat that again, and please listen. I am for reductions, and I am for needed staff and services that our beautiful county provides. I would like to see impact fees, new development, and maintenance of the infrastructure fees paid for by developers. With the economies of scales, I'm against tax increases. With our county receiving $96 million from the CARES Act, $106 million in the recent ARPA Act, the recent Volusia County budget discussion that I attended, do you really need a higher millage rate in the general fund? I realize that you are limited by federal and state mandates as to what you can actually effect. I also know that the county reserves, I think they are high, although I didn't see that on the form that was sent out tonight, or I looked at tonight. And I know that you all live within your means, and you have budgets for your family and save time. So as a governmental body, in the business world, the rearview mirror is always clearer than the windshield, and you have made many assumptions in the budget. Please roll back the rate. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Kitchen. Paul is in the kitchen. Tom Abbott.
Hi, I'm Tom Abbott. I live in the city of DeLand. I just wanted to echo what was said about the people that were on fixed incomes. I've noticed tonight with the budget pie charts and everything that everything's going up. Everything is going up in everywhere. And the difference between my budget and your budget is I don't get to ask other people for money to run my household, and you're asking us to raise our taxes yet again. So I just wanted to say, I brought my notes. This is my note. Full rollback now. Please, no tax hike. I don't have that luxury. next year, if you do raise the taxes, to say, hey, Dad, hey, Mom, I don't have anywhere else to go except another government that gives me my, because I'm retired as well, another government hoping that they give me my 3%, my 2%, my 1%, whatever it is. So please give it some thought. And remember, everybody in this room has a budget, but only government gets to ask for more money from me personally. I don't get it from y'all. So thanks.
Sally Gillies, unless you, did you find Paul Kitchen? No? Okay, Sally Gillies. Followed by Louis Niswanger.
This is way too tall for me. No, that's okay. I'm Sally Gillis, and, oh, thank you. I live in Ormond Beach, and thank you for allowing us to speak about the budget. There are 3,000 some signatures over there, and I'm going to add 187 more of my neighbors and friends who do not want an increase in our taxes. It's different when you own a business than when you work in the government, because businesses generally find ways to save money because you can't always count on your customers or anybody giving you money. The taxes in Volusia are already too high. We just moved from Flagler County to Volusia County, and our taxes nearly tripled, and yet it's pretty much the same area. I really would ask you to consider the fact that we need a tax reduction rather than an increase, partly because the county assessor just raised the value of everybody's properties. So you already got a tax increase, and it's unfair to ask us for more. So please don't do it to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Louis? Followed by Kathy Find. Hey, Louis.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me time to speak. My name is Louis Niswanger. I am a resident in Volusia County, unincorporated DeLand. We have a lot of interesting data tonight that has been presented, a lot of passionate arguments, both sides of the issue. I spent 31 years working in government for a fire service of another county, and I am very well with the budgeting aspects and the challenges that are presented to you all. But every year there is always a challenge. There's always a crisis. There's always something that has to be addressed. And that will never change. Those are the challenges that you face in government. Those are the challenges that corporate America faces. There's going to be tough decisions that have to be made. They're going to be painful, and not everybody is going to agree with them. But you all chose to sit in those seats. You ran for election, you got the position, and those are the challenges that you face, making tough choices. The data that's been presented has been very interesting, but we all know statistics can be used and will be used by both sides of the issue to support their position. Having said that, at the end of the day, we're talking about people, about the citizens of Volusia County, some who actually work for this government body. And they're suffering just like all of us. They're having to make tough choices. They're having to limit things in their personal lives and their financial lives. And you all know that you are tasked to do the same. So please just consider that yes, this has been a really tough year for COVID, maybe tougher than most years budget-wise. And we are growing exponentially in this county, and that presents its own challenges to deal with. But like I said, at the end of the day, we're talking about people, we're talking about their financial challenges, and this is really coming at a bad time to have a tax increase in their property taxes. So please, do the right thing, make the right tough choice. Hopefully it's on the side of the rollback, and we will face another day to try to improve this county in other ways financially. But now's not the time. But thank you very much.
Kathy Find. Joe Hanush. Oh, is that Kathy? You don't have to run. Joe Hanush, you will be next.
Good evening, County Council. My name is Kathy Feint, and my husband and I live in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. We are avid boaters and advocates of our community. We've lived in Volusia County for 35 years, owning a boat during this whole time. We've also owned businesses. So moving ahead, I'm a common sense person. Over the last 8 to 10 years, our boating activity has increased, whether recreational or transit vessels like motor vessels, sailing vessels, and wanting to anchor in our waterways. Maritime law is minimal here. Maritime law is not being taken care of. So 2021, with an influx of boat traffic, especially with living aboard vessels, there is not a plan in place to regulate and monitor their presence, which would ensure that they are obeying our laws. When we started looking into trying to have our city set forth regulations to protect the wildlife, the safety of our waterways, and a hazard to our navigation, we found that it takes 3 agencies to enforce these regulations. We need to collaborate this effort by all 3 agencies in order to accomplish this task. It's a matter of okay, so together you take control of something that is getting out of control. So we have a city commissioner, residents that are willing to coordinate our agencies to put forth these regulations to provide a safe, eco-friendly, and preserve our beautiful state of Florida. And there were several people that spoke earlier that were so right on, with regards to, without our water, we are nothing. So our state is growing in leaps and bounds. Residents coming to our beautiful state, let's start caring about and preserving our community. Like anything that grows with rules, codes, and regulations, our citizens will be given a guideline to respect our communities, and that is why they've come here, to enjoy our coastal state. Thank you for your time.
Joe Hanush, followed by, is it Ronnie? That's what I was going to say. Joe.
Joe Hanush, Ormond Beach, Florida. I want to be respectful of people's time, so I'll make it real quick. I like what Suzanne mentioned before about the tax incentives for corporations. That's government picking winners and losers, with our tax dollars. That's not okay. So that would be the rollback rate right there. On top of that, I haven't heard anyone speak about property taxes being a lien. It's a government lien on people's property. Yeah, we should be mindful of that when we're deciding to raise taxes. If you get paid off your home, and if you don't pay your taxes, government will take it away from you. So I don't think that's okay. We have a lot of money in reserves. Last time I checked, it was like 2/3 of the budget. I know it was several months ago. It's been probably lower since then, but that's one way we can get money. I've seen mosquito control. I think by my numbers, it's like $32 million we're spending on mosquito control. 18 million of that is coming from the federal funds, the magic printer they got up there. And I'll keep it short. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ronnie. There she comes. Followed by Karen Clark and Douglas Kinney.
Good evening, County Council members. My name is Rosanna Scaccia, and I live in Daytona Beach, Beachside. I am a resident of Volusia County, and I am here today to request full rollback now. And so do 3,140 signed petitioners, residents of Volusia County, also request. So my question to you, council members, do you support your constituents or do you support private interests? I am here to remind you that you have voted by your constituents. The people also, as a reminder to you, voted for Jeff Brower to make a very big statement and a very big change. So I recommend that you take their lead and follow the leader, because if you don't, I am sure that you may not regain your positions in the next voting election. So thank you very much, and again, roll back now. Thank you.
Karen Clark, then Douglas Kinney, and then Tim Ryan.
Hello, Karen Clark in Glenwood, Florida. That it really is 3,000 plus people that signed those forms. But anyway, I didn't know if I was going to be here, so that's why you all got my letter. So it says, good morning, because I did it in the morning. Anyway, today I would like to go over some numbers I received last week from the Property Appraiser's Office regarding the number of homesteaded properties in Volusia County and the number of non-homesteaded properties in Volusia County. The number of real properties is almost 300,000, which is 298,722 homes. The number of homesteaded properties is 144,568, almost 145,000. Now I get this, and I think it is unique because the number of non-homesteaded properties, which is 154,154, which means there are 9,586 more non-homesteaded dwellings than homesteaded. This has two implications. One, homesteaded under the Save Our Homes Act has an assessment limitation of 3% a year, or the Consumer Price Index, whichever is less. The non-homesteaded has a limitation cap of 10%, and that means there are a lot of homes out there generating a lot of money for you to buy by way of non-homesteaded taxpayers. Non-homesteaded tax properties are like apartments, and rental properties are usually hit the hardest. And we don't want the landlords to pass this proposed tax hike to the tenants, many of who suffered during the past COVID year. Please, I want you to go to a full rollback of 5.20 mils. I know you can do it, and with the help of everyone. Thank you. We care about all our citizens, especially our young citizens who dream of owning a home one day. And please enter this into record. But I also know that other things come up, other disasters and stuff where other monies may have to be in there. So because I'm not an accountant, well, everybody knows that, you just have to look at the big picture. And even if you just hold off an increase, at least this year, it would help the regular people a lot. And I know the value of my home did go up. I just got my little letter from you guys. So that's another way I think that the taxpayers are getting hit with a good assessment of their homes. So you're going to pay a little bit more taxes that way. Anyway, that's about it. And I know you got a long night ahead of you.
Thank you. Douglas Kinney, followed by Tim Ryan, followed by Julie Sheldon.
Douglas Kinney, Ormond by the Sea. I guess I have to say all the thunder's been put out here for everybody. Good facts and figures by that lady right there, okay? But I want to put something else out there. I think we should have the full rollback. I think everybody that's coming before you, there's more than just 3,114 people who believe that. It's just those other people haven't got a chance to sign it. The other thing is, in the area where I live, Ormond by the Sea, there's a lot of one-bedroom, one-bath homes out there. And just to go on record, the insurance companies are now telling their homeowners, they'll give them 90 days notice. If your roof is anywhere from 7 to 15 years old, you got to put a new one on. My neighbor down the street got 90-day notice. He was going to be canceled if he didn't put a new roof on. $15,000 later, he's got a new roof. I don't know many people who can put out $15,000 in 90 days. So if you want to keep increasing taxes, you'll have all of us leaving, okay? And maybe you might be happy because maybe you'll get more taxes. But that's not the way that people feel, at least in Ormond by the Sea. I think the corporations that come to this county council and look for all these freebies and giveaways, I think it's time they started paying up. It's the small people here are the ones paying the price. I see all this construction going on, all these apartments, all these developments. Who's paying for all that infrastructure? What's the giveaways? I see it Norman by the Sea. They tried to force us to go on to their sewer system. Well, that's fine. I'd be willing to pay the $5,000 to hook up to the sewer system, but they wanted us to pay $30,000 to $40,000 to pay for the infrastructure. That's what I'm starting to see going on. And I agree with the one lady. I think a lot of Volusia County citizens, representatives, or residents will remember who voted for the increases. We will remember that, and we'll know who wanted to keep the rollback. Thank you very much.
Tim Ryan, followed by Julie Sheldon, followed by Gary Henson.
Good evening. I'm Tim Ryan, Ormond Beach, Precinct 510. I didn't want to bring a piece of paper, I just want to talk by my heart. This nation in Volusia County is suffering. I work for the largest food distributor in the United States, and I can tell you, the restaurant community, the hotel community, they're really hurting. There's a labor shortage, there's a labor bidding war, they're seeing their wages double, they're seeing their energy costs going up, and here's a statistic that they're not talking about, but since January of this year, food inflation is riding at 10.9%. That's quadruple of anything that we've seen in 20 years. The food manufacturing plants can't even get the products out there. So here's a small business owner that their food costs are going up dramatically, energy costs are going up, labor is going up, and then they have a labor shortage that they're forced to close an extra day or two out of the week, and there goes their profits. Think about how many small businesses are in Volusia County. I took a 20% cut because of COVID in March. A lot of people took cuts in their pay. But yet, we're seeing costs going up everywhere we're seeing it. Gasoline is the highest in 7 years. They're saying it's going to substantially go up. OPEC is going to say, no, we're not going to produce. We want the prices to go up. This is the wrong time to raise taxes. As you all know, you had an extra $38 million in property revenue. It is projected to grow substantially. A lot of people, like out of New York or other states that are really bad, they want to come down to Florida. So that's going to be more property revenue for Volusia County. You're getting your revenue increase just on simply on that. So please, a full rollback. And a full rollback is still going to increase the property revenue, as you already know. So it's not really a property, we're going to see a property, tax increase on that situation. So anyway, this is what I want you to think about. The Volusia County residents, like all the people in the United States, are really having a tough time. Don't make it worse. Thank you.
Julie Sheldon. Followed by Gary Henson, followed by Carlton Curley.
Hi, I'm Julie Sheldon from Ormond Beach. And one thing I just wanted to say is, no, I haven't heard anyone address this, is I just really find it seems unacceptable that the majority of your constituents that are here tonight have to be relegated to a downstairs room, not to be able to be in here when this is our government, this is part of our government. So I just wanted to address that I just find that, unacceptable that we can't be part of this meeting altogether. And I was at a previous meeting when we were, a lot of us were here talking about, saying, not to increase our taxes, to not to, increase the millage rate. And when you all discussed it during the line item part, a few of you said that we, the public, just don't understand. We don't understand why you have to increase the taxes. We just can't comprehend it, or what have you. I just kind of found that a little condescending, because some of us are small business owners, but all of us manage our household. And how do we do that? I mean, we do that following a budget. We can't just, unless we can increase our income, we can't just grab money from anywhere. We have to live within the income that we have, or we go into debt. So what do we have to do? We have to slash things. We have to take out things, wasteful items. And that's what we're expecting you to do. We're expecting you to go, on a line by line audit of the budget and just take out wasteful items. That's what we're asking. We expect for you, to do that, and so we're just asking that you don't raise our taxes. You don't raise the millage rate. Just a lot of us feel like we're speaking to you, and you already have your agenda. You already know what you're going to do, and but you're our representatives. It's a representative government. We're a constitutional republic, and that's why we voted for you all to listen to us and to do what we want you to do. So, thank you very much.
Gary Hinson, followed by Carlton Curley, followed by Donna Davis.
Hi, good evening. My name is Gary Henson from Daytona Beach. The human mind is a miraculous thing. It starts working the moment you're born and stops the moment you stand before a microphone. So, I'd just like to say I agree with the gentleman that brought up the fact of inflation. We definitely are suffering from inflation due to the tax and spend politicians that we have in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, we're having to borrow all this money from China, and it's costing us dearly. So we can't afford to pay more federal tax and local tax. This is, you're killing us. People just can't afford to give this much of their hard-earned money away. I know it's not going to be easy to call back the spending, but that's what you're here for. If it was easy, anybody could do it, So we appreciate it if you guys would, hopefully you don't have your mind made up and you'll listen to some of your constituents tonight and take this seriously. We can't afford this. We need to roll back. We got 3,114 signed petitions, and that's just a drop in the bucket compared to the people that actually feel this way. So you really need to think about this. Not just think about it, act. We don't need politicians, we need statesmen or stateswomen, statespersons. We need people who will step up and do what's right, not just what's politically expedient. But thank you for all your time, thank you for your efforts. Please put them in, thank you.
Carlton Curley, Donna Davis, and then Lynn Faulkner. And if the others, when I call multiple names, if you want to come down and sit in the front row, you're welcome to do that. Donna Davis and Lynn Faulkner.
Good evening. My name is Carlton Curley from DeLand, Florida, and I want to be before you do something a little different than the rest. I want to apologize to you. I've been a citizen here in West Volusia for 65 years. I have taught school here for 38 and a half years, and I usually have a lot to say, especially in front of students, but I'm going to let the 3,114 people speak for me, plus there's probably about, I would think, probably 10 times that feel the same way as that petition signers in that box. I want to apologize to you because I haven't been before this board in those 65 years until this year. This is my second time in front of the county council. And it seems that the interest in topics like raising taxes is something that just gets people a little riled up. So I want to apologize to you for not having been before you more than that, but I also want to leave you with a warning, because this is what I would tell my students in class. I've told you twice, don't make me come back and tell you a third time. Thank you.
Donna Davis, Lynn Faulkner, David Payne.
Good evening, Chairman and council members. My name is Donna Davis, and I'm from Orange City, Florida. And I just want to say, full rollback now and no tax hike. Thank you, and please.
Same, short and sweet. Lynn Faulkner, Edgewater. We're just saying, full rollback now, no tax hikes. A lot of my neighbors signed the petition, so, you know, I want to be representative of them as well. So please listen to some very good arguments tonight. Thank you.
Did I get David Payne right? Am I reading this right, or is it? That's what you have? David Payne, and then Georgia Brown, and then Don Sauter. No David?
It might be Donna Payne.
Let me get my co-chair to cipher it. It looks like David, but Georgia, if you're here, come on down. Don't be, it's,
You don't bite?
it's no, it's scarier on this side.
My name's Georgia Brown, and I just moved to Daytona Beach. I lived in Orlando, and I was a nurse for 35 years. And when COVID hit, I think this affected a lot of people. They weren't able to work, and I wasn't able to work because they were slowing down on doing open heart surgeries. So after about a year, I decided, well, I might as well retire. And I moved to Daytona from Orlando, and never thought about how much less you make when you're retired. And so most people just can't afford to have, you know, the taxes raised. And I appreciate you listening to me, and this is what I believe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. David Payne. Don Sauter. And then Jamie, you know who you are.
Hi, I'm Dawn Sauter from Ormond by the Sea. And a change in government starts at the local level. And so the trimming needs to begin here. So maybe our federal government can be more aware of what they're doing. At any rate, I want to say full rollback now and don't raise taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. James Stewart, Jan Bergman, Monica Paris. Are you David? You're who?
Johnny, did you?
Is James Stewart here? Okay, come on down, John Bergman. Monica Paris will be next.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jan Bergman. I live here since 2005 in the land, and I would like to ask you to vote for full rollback. Since the Biden administration in Washington has increased our spending multitude, and they're spending money like it's growing on trees, I don't think we should follow suit here in Volusia County. The cost of living is increasing by the day since 9 months. What's not increasing is our social security. And a lot of people who live here live off social security. You know, the pay raise I got in the last year wouldn't even fill my tank. So I ask you to consider this when voting on our taxes. Thank you very much.
Last call for Jamie Stewart. Monica Paris.
Hi everyone, my name is Monica Paris. I'm from Daytona Beach. I'm asking the Volusia County Council vote for a full rollback. When I contacted my county council representative, who I voted for, to let them know how I would like them to vote, they replied by saying, I'm open to hear what services you would like to reduce and capital projects to eliminate. I replied, as someone who voted for you, I'm telling you that I don't want you to vote for my village rate to go up. It is your job to figure out how to do that, but if you want my suggestions, here they are. My suggestions were rebutted with, it isn't that simple. I truly believe that their mind was made up and they didn't care what their constituents wanted. I voted for someone to represent me, not to patronize me and try to insist that they know what is best for me. I also believe that reallocating the federal funding that was provided for COVID relief would be a good idea. To me, a $10 million investment in ball fields for a park was not the proper way to give relief to the residents of Volusia County. The relief should go to the homeowners, keeping this county funded with our property taxes. I'm asking for relief. Full rollback now, no tax hikes. Thank you.
Nick Seknofsky, followed by Steve Koenig, followed by Kelly McGee. Nick, I appreciate your note.
Yeah, I see I'm used to having the phonetic spelling.
Yes.
Thanks, good evening, everyone. This is my first visit to the chambers, and frankly, I'm glad that they're open in the sense that I think the spacing is good. I don't think that it's necessary to crowd everyone in the same room. I certainly could see everyone easily downstairs. I want to echo the words of doing the right thing instead of the easy thing that someone mentioned earlier. But I want to emphasize that and I'm glad that it's not a raucous environment too. I was a little concerned about that possibility. The right thing is actually funding the government in a way that serves the people of Volusia County in the right, proper way. You've had a lot of experts give you information on that. And you are actually not increasing millage. You're actually reducing millage, contrary to what some folks have said as well. Now, is it a full reduction to the same revenue you had last year? No. But as many people have pointed out, there's inflation. You guys are subject to inflation. Your costs go up too. But in reality, when you look at for us who are homeowners and have homestead exemption, with a 1.4% cap this year on assessments, and your reduction in millage of 1.26, as it looks like right now for what's proposed, our net increase is only about 0.14%, which is quite reasonable when you consider, for those of us on Social Security, as I am, we got a 1.3% increase in Social Security. So the numbers, when it boils around to it, yes, I respect that it's been tough years, but it's been tough years for everyone. There's no, and the amount of pain that you're imposing to keep the government functioning well, which I believe you guys have been doing a good job and your employees have been doing well, for us, the people of the Volusia, I think you guys have, this is a reasonable budget. And I think that the cuts that have been made so far have worked. And in theory, of course, there's always potential cuts. I mean, you could farm out everything and potentially theoretically save a little bit of money. But that's a long-term process. And if you guys want to develop long-term policies that might want to look at stuff like that, I can understand that. But doing the right thing tonight is doing what you guys have set as the preliminary millage already. And it's going to not impact those of us who are homeowners and are retired or are on Social Security as much as some people might have implied. So thank you again for your time. Thanks. I appreciate the people who have spoken. I see where they're coming from, and I appreciate everyone's good behavior tonight. Thanks.
Steve Koenig, followed by Kelly McGee. If you want to move down front, and Sage Lynn Gidzinski.
Whoops. Imagine that. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Steve Koenig, and my wife Nancy and I live in Daytona Beach, Florida, where we own and operate a real estate business. I'm here to advocate you go to rollback, but not because I want my personal property taxes lowered. My concern is for the renters that do not have the same deductions we enjoy. It wasn't that many years ago that our property taxes were over $4,000. But due to the Save Our Homes deductions and the homestead exemption, our house has gone from a market value of $247,000 to a taxable value of just over $64,000. Our projected property taxes are $1,400. But our trim notice we received for an investment property has a market value of $99,000 and a taxable value of $99,000. Our homestead property has a proposed tax amount of just over $1,400, and the investment property would have a proposed tax amount of just over $2,000. Non-homestead houses have no Save Our Home deduction or homestead exemptions. With homeowners insurance going through the roof, 50 to 100% increases are common. Rents generally did not go up last year because of the COVID. But investors can't keep eating these increasing costs for taxes and insurance before having to pass them on to renters. We can't do anything about property insurance, but we can do something about property taxes. If we care about workforce housing or affordable housing, we can start with property taxes. The proposed tax hike will hurt those that cannot afford it. This is a regressive tax that hurts the lower income people more than the higher income people. Please do the right thing and go to rollback. Thank you.
Kelly McGee, and then Sage Lynn Gidzinski, followed by Gregory Wilson.
Hello, Kelly McGee, DeLand, Florida. Thank you all so much, honorable members of County Council. I am here this evening to fully support your environmental management division and all of your conservation programs. The team of professionals that you all have on staff is exceptional, and they're responsible for finding creative ways to leverage funding in support of our natural places, our springs, rivers, and ocean. Programs such as the Lyonia Environmental Center in Deltona, Florida, the Marine Science Center in Ponce Inlet, and water quality and educational programs such as Explore Volusia, Green Volusia, and Volusia Volunteers, and many others, helps educate the public and contributes to K through 12 and university education programs, and helps our visitors and residents learn how our natural resources have historically contributed to our economy. I want to thank you all for your vision and foresight in supporting these programs. I think I've seen every one of you over the years at the events that these programs support throughout Volusia County. We can be fiscally responsible and conservation minded at the same time. An investment in our water quality, and we did polling last year, and I'll tell you the vast majority of our voters support clean water, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. Clean water is a responsible investment. I'm the executive director of the Riverside Conservancy, and in addition to promoting clean water, living shorelines, we're also hoping to create jobs. We have interns every single year. We've got interns from Stetson, Daytona State College this year. We've got homegrown students born and raised in Volusia County. And my goal, I'd like to create jobs for these students to keep this talent here. We have exceptional universities, and your investment in our water quality, our sustainability, our resilience programs is an investment in the future. I'd just like to remind you that the recent economic valuation study of our own Indian River Lagoon tells us that there is a 33-to-1 return on investment. So we return $33 to Volusia County for every $1 that is invested in our Indian River Lagoon. It's a responsible investment. I thank you for your support. I ask that you hold the line on your clean water programs, and thank you again for promoting clean water and sustainability within Volusia County.
Sage Lynn Gudzinski. Was I close?
Yeah, you're correct.
Oh.
Hello, my name is Sagelin Gazinski. I reside in DeLand. I'm a senior at Stetson University, where I'm studying aquatic and marine biology and minoring in journalism. During my time at Stetson, I also have the amazing opportunity to intern at Riverside Conservancy to help with restoring Florida shorelines with natural habitats, growing oysters and clams, and getting the opportunity to give back by educating the public on how we all can take a part and assist in bettering our environment and marine life. On behalf of Riverside Conservancy, I'm here to request that the county should fully invest in water quality programs, sustainability, and its resiliency. These programs not only help improve our environment, but they are also job creators. These programs allow for environmental companies and nonprofits like Riverside Conservancy to create jobs for present and future naturalists. And it personally helped me to have the opportunity to learn and to actually be a helping hand in our efforts to improve our water quality and sustainability. There is no time like the present for all of us to invest in our efforts and support for bettering and guaranteeing that our water quality and sustainability remains and improves in the future. Lastly, I just want to thank you, council members and county, for investing in clean water and for helping me to be able to be a part of the change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gregory Wilson.
Thank you, council members. My name is Gregory Wilson. I'm a resident of Ormond Beach. I'm a PhD aquatic ecologist with an expertise in aquatic ecosystems management. I'm part of the Riverside Conservancy team as well. And I just wanted to emphasize some of the points my colleagues made earlier, but particularly that these quality programs that you folks have put in place are really investments in the sustainability of our aquatic habitats that are important for both our economy and for our quality of life. I'm also part of the Friends of Gamble Rogers, the president of that group, and a founding board member of Riverside Conservancy, and I help as their chief scientific officer. And on behalf of our organization, I would reiterate and request that you maintain full clean water and sustainability allocation within the general fund. Even if there were to have to be a 3% cut to the county manager's original budget, that would still save our water quality programs, which is extremely important. With your leadership, we can be both fiscally responsible and conservation minded. And as we all know, for the quality of our life as well as our economy, that's extremely important. You know, now is the time that we need to all lean into these clean water projects, not back away, not cut them out of the budget. Because there's a huge economic impact from neglecting clean water issues, as you all know. Loss of fisheries, loss of shellfish harvest, loss of sport fishing, tourism, which is so important to us, as well as loss of these valuable habitats. I think the voters in Volusia County have already spoken in terms of their support of clean water. And so I would just ask you to please continue water quality funding and these sustainability appropriations, because these investments are both wise stewardship of these public funds, and it's one of the few ways we can both enhance the economic benefit and the health of our waterways. And I would just say on a personal note, you know, many of us are parents, grandparents. I have a 1-year-old granddaughter here in Volusia County, and I'd like her to have clean, safe water, both now and in the future, and for future generations. Be able to swim in the springs, fish in the Indian River Lagoon, see wildlife along the St. Johns River, and your investment today in fully funding these water quality and sustainability programs will help ensure that future. So I thank you.
Jan McGrain? I know I didn't get that right. And then Gabriel Milch.
You guys say you got no way to cut this budget. I got a couple ways to cut this budget. You go to this Chitwood over there and you tell those guys that every time there's a car that gets stopped, there's about 3 or 4 or 5 sheriff's deputies that pull up, each with their own car, with their own everything. 2 cops per car instead of 1. And instead of letting those guys drive them home, tell them to leave them in the lot. Let them drive their own cars back and forth. That's just mileage putting on my car. Something else you can do. Sunday, I was at the beach with my girlfriend. She's upstairs in a wheelchair, okay? We get to park in the middle, okay? You follow me? Do you know what I'm talking about? Just shake your head like this and I'll tell you. Okay. Well, these guys, the beach rangers, those good-for-nothing bastards, pardon my French, they won't let us down to get in the middle. Oh, we're full, we're full, we're full. They're not full. They want to close the beach so they can regulate how many people get on the beach. You follow me? If there's 1 million people on the beach, they babysit 1 million. But if there's 3 people on the beach, they babysit 3. And another thing, we're sitting on the beach. These other cars are illegal to park. We're parked in the middle. We're handicapped. We're able to do that. There's 5 or 6 of them. They got 3 beach rangers, not 1, not 2, but 3, all in their own cars, all in their own trucks, some of them on their little 4-wheelers. They've got nothing to do other than hassle me. They hassled me. They took my tag number because I didn't know who was parked next to me. As if it's my job to know who's next to me? Pardon my French. I say, those body armor, handguns, machine guns in the cars, that's totally unnecessary. Does that make you feel safe? Even these idiots up here, handguns, come on. You feel like somebody's going to come in here and shoot you people? If you do, then do it by TV or something. You know what I'm saying? I'm paying too much to have that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy to stand there and protect you from me. What do you think? Did you listen to a word I said?
Every word.
Okay. Well,
thank you.
You want to hear more?
You got 33 seconds.
Well, there's more ways that Chitwood could cut salaries. You can make them pay for their own damn uniforms. You know what I'm saying? This guy up there, he's probably got $100,000 worth of clothes that you and I paid for. Cut back on that kind of stuff. He's probably got socks that's got your logo on it that you and I paid for. Cut back somewhere. What do you think? I got 7 more seconds. You can tell me. Go ahead. Nobody gives a shit, huh?
Thank you. Gabriel, actually it's Ms. Milch.
Good evening. My name is Gabrielle Milch. I'm not Gabrielle, no angel, but I'm here today with the St. John's River Keeper organization, which is a nonprofit organization. And I'm here to talk to you about sustainability and resiliency and the importance to the economy of our waterways, the St. John's River, Blue Springs, the ocean, so many areas. And I know we have a lot of competing interests in humanity here. And I feel truly sorry for folks who are having a difficult time getting their houses paid for and having to deal with new higher insurance and all that. So resiliency is really important to get people educated and understand. So these programs that you all have put together, I have to compliment you, are very wonderful programs not in very many other counties. And tourism is very important. So I really hope that you all this evening decide to keep your sustainability and resilience program. Don't reduce water quality monitoring for the waterways or for our drinking water or any of those aspects. So I just hope that you all consider that and get out on the water and enjoy our St. John's River. We've got a great middle basin here, but we do have some toxic algae issues and some other things from our pollution. So I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, almost everybody, for keeping it cool. There's two more that I've called once. It's the evening, and if somebody came out and they got stuck downstairs, I want to give them a chance. Paul Kitchen and David Payne. Oh, okay. I think I've called their names 3 times, so.
So Jamie Stewart did not speak either.
Do I have did I call her?
I believe so.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify.
She did not speak. You just, okay. Thank you. Thank you all for coming out. We will close the public hearing part of the meeting and go to the county council for discussion. I don't see anybody yet, so I'll start. I have a few questions, and they maybe have to be answered by George, because all the department heads in here. A few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, budget season just seems to run on. I had asked Ryan for a line item budget. This is I think it was maybe 9 or 10 inches tall off my desk. This is a part that's been really gone through. And so I have a few questions, and George, this is absolutely fair to you because I think it makes both of our points that there are cuts that can be made, and there's increases that you have to deal with. It's just the way that it is. It's the same increases that everybody in Volusia County has to deal with. Not to the extent that the government does. So I appreciate the budget, but it tells me that the county manager makes $1,292,918. $1,292,918. I'm pretty sure that's not what you get paid. So what I want to ask for, and when I get done here, I'm going to suggest that we have a workshop for next year, not next week, and approach budget season a little bit differently. I would really like to get a budget that's a line item budget that's not collapsed, that is where I can tell that, because I'm assuming that's your whole staff. And that you're not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm in big trouble at the house right now.
Right. But there was some things in there that stood out to me. And instead of flipping through all the papers, I wrote them down. We're leasing vehicles, and I'm seeing leases that have increased ungodly amounts. So I think the question for you, let's look at Leonia Preserve, vehicle lease, increase with 9,656%.
That would be, now we don't lease any vehicles from outside of the county. So when that's a vehicle lease, that is what they're paying our internal fleet management. So an increase of something like that means that they added vehicles. So they went from not having a vehicle to bringing on a vehicle of some sort, but that's coming out of the fleet. And then the way that works is that's the way to even out the budget in terms of basically they're buying the vehicle, the replacement vehicle. So if they get a vehicle, they basically have to put in a fee every year to replace that vehicle in the following years. So that way we don't end up like you could with a big fleet where all of a sudden you've got 10, 12, 20, 50 vehicles all at one time in a division. So it gets especially helpful in things like heavy equipment, where a new trash compactor, for instance, at the landfill is probably $1 million. So in order to replace that, they pay a little bit every year. So it appears as a lease, but it's not really a lease. We buy the equipment. It's cheaper that way, and then we turn them over and we sell them. And because they're fleet maintained, we actually usually get a pretty good price for our vehicles. So the cut would be, if you were to do that, is to not have a vehicle at all, which we do, and we actually we take them from areas. We pay mileage if people have to use a vehicle on the job, and we try to analyze that as well, because the mileage, the rate right now, IRS rate, is pretty 56 cents, yeah, a mile. So it's either being paid 56 cents a mile, which is what a lot of our people who occasionally use a vehicle, versus staff that are out in the field all the time. Then it pays to usually buy the vehicle. And like I said, the lease that you see is basically leasing, or really they're paying for it, their replacement vehicle through our fleet management program.
Thank you. So water quality, these are all things that are listed as a lease in the budget, up 100%, 469%.
Go over all of those with you, but probably don't want to do it right now, but I could go down through every one of them.
So where I'm going with this is that you answered the question, and that we're not leasing it, because I know we have a fleet of vehicles. We're not leasing this outside. It's actually a lease to our fleet.
Right, because if we...
And a payback for...
Right. Leasing from an outside agency would actually, that's really analogous to borrowing the money and paying, because you then are paying back greater than the value, and then that has to show, and actually that's where Ryan could come in. That's as a debt, and we would that would actually be a something where we're going into debt and we're owing somebody else. We don't need to do that at this time, because that's what we worked hard to get rid of debt, or most of it.
The other big increase that I noticed, there's a couple, is in property insurance. I've also noticed it in group insurance. Property insurance, I'm looking at the state's attorney's office.
It'll be the same idea, but go ahead, Brian. I think you got...
All of our property insurance costs that are listed. He's gonna raise the thing back up for me.
You better.
No. All of the property insurance lines that you see in the budget are actually paying our internal service fund, the risk management fund, which is part of the non-operating budget. And that fund then actually obtains the insurance policy. So what you see in the line item budget across all the funds is each division's share of those insurance costs. We're always working on trying to make sure that we accurately allocate the cost, but the true cost of the property insurance is paid for by the self-insurance fund. And property insurance rates, that was a policy that was brought back to the council in earlier this year in May. And the rates for property insurance have gone up significantly for the storms that had hit Louisiana. All the insurance companies, and you've heard it here today with public comment, everybody's paying more for property insurance. The group insurance rate, that was covered on our slides. That's a 6% increase that we're projecting. That's for our health insurance, for our self-insured health insurance fund. And each division pays per FTE, and that rate was increased by 6% in order to cover the increases in medical insurance costs that our self-insurance fund is paying for in that area.
Thank you. So we raise rates on ourself in group insurance because
the claims are coming in higher.
Because you're seeing medical bills come in that are 6%.
When we raise the group insurance rate, how much each department has to pay for health insurance, it's because the health insurance fund, we are self-insured, so we pay all the claims directly. We have a third-party administrator that does all of the claims administration, but any claim that comes in, we pay that cost directly. So when those claims costs go up, then we need to increase the rates that the departments are paying to make that self-insurance fund fiscally sustainable.
And that fund is part of the cash that people see. When they say you have only dollars, whether it's an example of a fund that, you know, that the dollars are there, and they have to be to a certain degree to be actuarially sound, and that's something that we have to make sure that we are in compliance to meet those obligations.
So group insurance in the internal auditing, is there more than one employee there? Just leave it off, because I'm going to be, I got a couple.
So the group insurance in the internal auditor, if you recall at the special meeting, we were talking about the addition of a staff auditor.
Right.
So not only did the insurance go up by the 6%, but you went from just Jonathan to Jonathan and his newly requested staff auditor that we discussed. So it would have doubled and then a little bit more for the 6% increase. That's what you should have seen.
This says 112%. That's why it caught my eye.
The 100% is for the additional person, and the 12 is 6% times 2.
Okay. One more. George, I'm sorry, but I wrote your name at the top of every one of these because I thought that'd be the fastest way to do it.
That's the way. That's perfect.
Right. One of the we've heard this from the public tonight, but one of the things that I hear the most in the public is water and water quality. We've heard it tonight from people from various political backgrounds. It was water, was overdevelopment, and it was taxes, and all those three things are related. I don't know if other council members are getting emails. I'm getting emails. Why are you cutting resiliency? I don't think anybody proposed that we cut the resiliency department, but my question is, or division, with resiliency, Ponce Inlet Port Authority, ECHO, Coastal Division, Growth and Resource Management, is it possible that we could look at all of those and see where there's overlap, where there's redundancy, where we could be more, because all of those deal with water issues to some extent, and there's programs in each one of them. Ponce Inlet is pretty focused on what they do, but when I look at that, I thought, well, you know, we're certainly going to cut ECHO or the Coastal Division, but is there overlap there that we can look at and be more efficient?
We're constantly looking for ways to be efficient. I've concentrated previously in some other areas that were much larger, but this is an area absolutely we can look at. They tend to cover different aspects, but you're correct. They're related. And the other thing you have sometimes, you have, like in government, we have a kind of a regulatory arm. That's what you see in a lot of the environmental area, is to make sure that others are doing what they're supposed to when it comes to the environment and ourselves. And you have, in our case, an actual operational arm, like our stormwater group, that actually goes and builds these stormwater structures that are meant to clean, and also for flood control and other things. But you have to have somebody that actually puts them in place. That's what they do. The good news is a lot of that is picked up by your stormwater utility fee. So that's not part of the general tax increases. That's $72 a dwelling unit. It's been that way for probably a decade. So, but yeah, we can continue to look at, and actually the way we are today was part of consolidation, because at one time mosquito control did a tremendous amount of that work, and we combined that with stormwater and rearranged to try and make savings there. So we can continue to do that, and I would say the Ponce Inlet, that's basically a funding area. I don't think is there any employees funded out of that? Just a couple at most?
Yeah, the coastal division is funded both out of the general fund and the Ponce Inlet Authority. So it's all the coastal division.
Right.
It's just a matter of where they're funded.
But we moved it this year, actually. It's one of the reasons you see a reduction, because we do track what people do. And so we make sure that the time that they have is in the correct fund, because a lot of our funds have multiple funding sources. So you have to be careful of that, and to make sure that if a person is in a division like that, that their time is accounted for from the right fund. So we're constantly looking at that as well. But yes, we're always committed, and we'll continue to be committed. We know, as I think Mr. Nichols said a little earlier, we're always looking out ahead, and we definitely see challenges coming at us. We've been talking about it all along. So we're going to have to do that. We have to continue to be as efficient and be even more efficient, or change the model, or look at different things and how to deliver those services. And we'll continue to do that, because we realize that we can't keep going up and up. And believe me, the staff knows to come to my office and ask for more is usually not as pleasant of an experience as they would like.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up with this, and then I'll come back after. I want to listen to the other council members, and I think I have an idea that they might solve our immediate problem. A couple months ago, when you and Aaron started coming to my office, and we're really digging into this, and I appreciate it. Somebody on the council, I think it was Ben, said, if you want cuts, find the cuts, tell them where it is. And I knew that I had already asked you for a line item budget so that I could do just that. But I can't, because I don't really think I have a line item budget, so you're going to have to tell me what to call it. I think this is a collapsed line item, because what I want is to be able to look at each total that's on here and see all the things that went through it. I think that's the responsibility of the council, to take it that seriously. And so next year, not next week, I would like to have every council member have this several weeks, because it takes a long time to go through it. I actually divided it up amongst 5 people, accountants, lawyers, business owners that are smart people. And because I knew I wouldn't get through all this, even what you gave me in a couple weeks. And in order for the council to take our responsibility seriously of giving direction and setting policy, it's not that I ask you a question, you answer me that I don't believe you. We just need to know more. We need to know how you arrived at that. And it's our responsibility to look at that and say, can we cut this? Just like I did with the county manager, is this possible? He just explained what leases were, how the lease is made. Nobody reads that and sees lease and think that it's an internal lease. It looks like we have a fleet and then we have a lease too. So I would like to have a workshop for next year where every council member is loaded, and then we can go in there and ask those questions in an organized, not accusatory way, because we're going to have to get on the same side of the desk. I feel like the 3 of us were when you were educating me with numbers. You understood what I was trying to do. Here's what I'm trying to do. We have all these increases that we have to deal with in the county. The voters voted to raise the minimum wage to $15. The voters, by a huge majority, voted for Volusia Forever and ECHO. And they wanted it the full percentage. That's what I hear, and I'm not going to take that away from them. They voted to tax themselves. But all the increases that we have to deal with on a county basis. All the increases that I teased you this morning, that you're not gambling with a dollar. That's your job. And when you quit doing that, you won't have a job anymore, because George needs that, we need that. But every person out here has the same increases, the same insurance, the same car expenses. Have to replace my car, I can't afford it. What if food? There's people said it tonight, that can't afford food. We spent how much time this afternoon on a rent insurance? Well, it's not the renters that can't pay it. It's the landlords that have not been able to collect rent for so long. It's the thing that gets me is we're looking at, I believe the council has been looking at a little tiny slice, right, of the person that owns $100,000 to a $200,000 home. It's hard to find. I've got my son's in real estate. It's hard to find a home at that price. Prices are going way up. So we're looking at people that have huge increases. But more importantly, I'm sorry, for the people that own those houses, just as importantly, is the renters and the landlords that own rental properties that have not been able to collect, for the restaurants that have been put out of business and won't ever come back, and the ones that are still here are struggling. They're not homesteaded, and when we raise the rates, they really pay through it. Hotels, motels, bars, gyms, all the businesses that were really hurt with COVID, this really hurts them. The person that cleans the rooms at the hotels and motels, the landscapers that are mowing the lawns there, all those people renting as low cost as they can find, their rents are going to go up when their landlords are allowed to charge rent again, because the landlord's rent's going to. That's how capitalism works. You have to pass the costs on. That's what George is trying to do in the county. I have increased cost. I have to pass that along, but we have to find a way that instead of looking at everybody in this county and say, you're the turnip, we're going to squeeze you some more. We have to do our due diligence to get that rate down and keep the millage down and not jeopardize the county. I am not suggesting that we jeopardize the financial position that you have worked really hard to put us in and keep us in. I'm not suggesting something that's wild. We have $3 million more to cut from general fund to get to rollback. I believe it's less than 1%. Less than 1%. So I'm going to get to my proposal right now, and then I'll let Ben tell me I'm wrong, and I'll listen to everybody else. We can get to that right now and adjourn this meeting and go and get to full rollback by Greta Van Eckert she's a superstar. She's one of my favorite people that I've met in the county because I love economic developments and things that she does. It helps our community.
Helga Van Eckert.
Did I say Greta again? God, is she here?
She's right there.
I promised her I wouldn't do that. Where is she? She doesn't know who I don't know. I don't know a Greta. Helga, superstar. We've already cut her budget. But I'm going to tell you, one of the most hated funds in Volusia County by the voters is, they call it corporate welfare. I call it corporate welfare. When we're giving taxpayer dollars, I don't know who's whistling at me. I'm sorry. I'm taking too long. When we're giving taxpayer dollars to one of the wealthiest businesses in America to relocate to Beach Street because he needs upgrade infrastructure. Now, maybe everybody benefits that from the future, but we did it because they moved there. We did it because he said, we love this place, we want to stay here, but if you don't do this, we're going to Atlanta. They put a gun to our head, and so we gave them money. We need to take the $3 million out of that fund out of the Economic Development Incentive Fund, I call it a bribe fund, and cut the general fund by $3 million, and we're there. Helga, I'm sorry. You'll find a way to replace it.
There it is. All right. The first line on this slide was the amount of property taxes generated at a rollback rate, which comes completely from new construction. And that's the 5.2 million, we'll call it. At the current partial rollback rate, the ad valorem tax generates an additional 7.3 million. So if you were to go to a rollback rate, you would be looking for 7.3 million. In addition, the 7.3 million, we're already taking 5.2 million from reserves, and that's on top of the budget that's set up from last year of $6 million from reserves. The total amount coming from reserves to balance the general fund budget is over $11 million. If you were to take the $7.3 million and say, let's fund it out of the economic development incentive pot that's there, you would essentially be saying, let's fund that 7.3 million also with reserves, bringing the total reserve usage to over 18 million for this budget, which is, if you were to use $18 million of reserves every year for the next 4 years, we wouldn't have any reserves left.
So last meeting, we sat here and went through this exercise of reducing the rate of increase. And we got down to, 5.3 millage. To get to the 5.2 millage, we have to cut 3 million more.
The $7 million number listed here is with the $3 million already being reduced. It previously was a $10 million number. So you would need to get to a rollback without using more reserves than the 11 million that we're already budgeting to use. You would need to make to offset the 7.3 million that's listed here as additional ad valorem revenues at the proposed partial rollback rate. It's not 3 million, it's 7.3 million, the second number on this slide.
But it's 3 million to get to the rollback rate.
Mr. Chair,
We cut three.
Mr. Chair, I think it's about time that we all start weighing in a little bit.
Okay, I'll be done in just a second, and I'll recognize you. 2 weeks ago, we cut a few $1 million and reduced the rollback, reduced from where we are to partial rollback. Mm-hmm. At that time, we needed 3 million more to get to full rollback.
No, the number has been 10 million, and because of the $3 million for the cuts, the number of additional property tax revenue at the partial rollback is now 7.3.
Yeah, I think, are we confusing the 5% versus 3%? I think that's, last meeting, what we remember, I was asked to come back with a proposal to cut 3% from what I had proposed, or 5%. And what I think you're saying, that we needed that much to get down to the 5%.
But that was only 5%
of the increase.
Smaller piece of the pie, the
Yeah,
piece
exactly.
that wasn't public safety or external expenses.
Exactly. So.
Okay, and you're looking at the $130 million of ARPA money, the increase in our rate of growth, the increase in the amount of houses that are being built, the increase in prices. I know you can't look at that, the future growth, and make judgments from it. But at some point, we've got to say we're going to take in a lot more money on houses that are more expensive. And we can, if there was ever a year we could offset 10, 15 million, it's a year where we've acquired from the federal government millions of dollars in ARPA money. It's supposed to go to help the people in the public. They need relief. Ben, I'm going to let you ask a question, and then I'll come back.
Start with, this is hard. It's tough. I've heard all the people out there, and I have to somewhat agree with them. We have problems. We have holes to fill. You can't live off your savings account. Next year, you don't have the savings account, and you're that far in the hole before you ever start. So next year, we look around and we say, where do we go because we're broke? We got a county right around us that right now is living their general fund. They're having to borrow from other funds to support it. Is that correct? I don't like this anymore. I mean, I tell you what, if people won't vote for me again tonight, I wonder why the hell I ran to start with. I look out here and I see a lot of friends, people I went to school with, but I have to look at the future of this county. And this year, we got handed stuff that we didn't ask for and we didn't want. And let's go look at it. Amendment 10 that the people voted for, $13 million. Where's that money going to come from? Echo and Forever. I've voted for them. But you got to remember, that goes on the tax bills. We've heard from people who said, I work for the largest food chain. All of our costs are going up, but you don't think ours do. I only heard one person come in here and tell you how they're going to cut funds, and that's put 2 naked policemen in a police car. But it's a very tough situation. We went down last meeting to where we're cleaning outhouses and wondering about sweeping off a beach ramp. I mean, down in the weeds trying to find somewhere to go. Now we're talking about taking incentive money. Yeah, some people don't like it, but the idea behind incentive money is to bring in more tax money. Has it always been used right? Maybe not. That's up to us up here to make sure it's used in a proper manner. And the idea is Volusia County is short on industrial type of business, which changes instead of a 60-30 or 60-40 or 70-30 on residential, you move it the other way where you have industry and business paying for it. And in order to do that, we have to put in infrastructure, and that's mainly what these incentives are for. You know, to get the area ready that we can take and bring in some of these businesses. Now, people can kick around the brown all they want, but they brought us in how many high-paying jobs that's going to bring in other stuff, too. Now this is a problem. Now, oh, yeah, we can cut. I don't need parks anymore. My daughter's raised. Most of y'all sitting here, your kids are raised, but your grandkids aren't, and people pay for our parks. You know, we have ambulances cost us more this year, trying to add to it to take care of the citizens. That doesn't come for free. Not one bit for free. That's very expensive. It was opted not to cut any of public safety, so you run into a problem of trying to get blood out of a turnip because there's just not that much left. You know, we could maybe away with the beach, I guess, push the condominiums in and cover up the ocean. We'd be through with 2 problems, but that's not going to work. You know, you just had Ida come through in the Gulf of Mexico. How many of those counties will never come back because they weren't prepared and did not have the forethought to where we get to reserves, and especially coastal county. Now we're talking about, not just talking about it, what is it, $5.3 million we're getting into it. And a lot of those things that we count reserves you can't touch because they're tied in other places. It all sounds good and everybody wants, we got retirement. We've got insurance going up. We've got Sunrail coming in, which not the first one of us up here voted for Sunrail, but we got it. And there's nothing we can do about it. We tried hard, they fought. I think Jeff's been down there fighting about it. But basically we got told we're going to honor the contract. And our people did a very good job of going up there and talking to them and getting the bill cut down. Not only that, to get it at almost an interest-free loan, because we planned ahead and had money sitting in reserves, so they know how our rating is. It's just like you going to the bank looking for a new car. If you don't have any reserves or any money, they're not going to give it to you. I watched the sheriff in my first term, who was a very good friend of mine, wanted to give his people pay raises, which they needed. So what did he do? He didn't, he opted not to buy cars. Well, you stop and think about that. Now you don't have the cars you had in the budget, and the next year you got the pay raises on top of your budget. Now you're scrambling, how do I pay for both of them? You got to think ahead, otherwise we can sit here on this council and break our county. We can put it in financial ruin in just a matter of 3 or 4 years. And I agree with looking everywhere we can to find everything we can to cut. And I think we've done that, and in the future might have to look a little bit more. The idea of sitting down, mini budget is the best way to do it instead of piling it all on at the end. Do it during the year. We've done that before. I had to do that as sheriff. But we could do that. And we all want to get down. But we've really cut back here, and for a few more dollars a year, I can't in good conscience sit here and say I'm going to destroy the future of Volusia County for a vote.
And I wouldn't suggest that either. Ben, you said we got to take care of Volusia County. This is Volusia County also. It's not just the bills we have, it's the bills that everybody that sits out here has. They all have the same bill. It's a two-way street. And you said, yeah, we're down looking at weeds. Well, honestly, we haven't gotten the weeds yet. We haven't gone through the budget as a council, line by line, and really looked at what we could suggest, what our policy should be, what we should recommend to the county manager, and then hear from him. We haven't done that. So next year, we need to do that, and we will do that.
And I don't argue with you. Next year, we sit down and do it a different direction. I'm not arguing that point. I'm arguing where we are tonight.
We all, and Heather, I see your name come up. You don't like this either, I know, and you have your reasons. We have over $500 million in reserves, 660 million.
Hold on.
I understand they're tied to
There's a
the.
slide for that. The amount budgeted for reserves is $300 million. For the ending budget of reserves. The amount budgeted for the beginning reserves carried forward, I'm actually mixing a few things, but I'm trying to make it simpler. The appropriated fund balance is $354 million. What is the difference between the $600 million number that's been said and the $354 million number that's there? The $665 million number, from the best I can tell, was the March investment report. That is the report of all of the county's cash and investments that were held as of that date and time. With the county's tax cycle, where property taxes are collected in November and December, there's definitely an increase in our cash flows cyclically during the year. So at September 30th, the cash number will be less because property tax revenues come in mainly in November and December. The number 665 million or 632 million, I believe that was the number that was in the September 30th report that I sent a reminder email to all of council about. That was covered April 20th in these chambers when I did the presentation on the county's cash and investment balances. Those are not all reserves. The county has liabilities that have to be held in the form of cash. Our landfill liability, that is on the books as money that the state requires us to keep on hand for the future closure. Claims liabilities, any claims that are outstanding, those are held in the form of cash until those claims come due. So those are just part of the differences between what makes up the $354 million and the $600 million number. There's also cash flow. If you look on any given balance sheet, we have liabilities that we have to pay for accounts payable and payroll and whatever have you. Those are not shown in here on appropriated fund balance. Appropriated fund balance is after all those liabilities clear. So while you might have $600 million in cash, your appropriated fund balance is 354 million, of which 300 million of it is appropriated in reserves on the different line items that you see on this slide.
Thank you. And we did go through that a couple weeks ago. I thought it was important to say it again, but that doesn't change the fact that I know a lot of that money, all of that money, is tied to a fund where it came out. The council and the staff could decide that 350 million is about our general fund, a little more. Some of it could go back. We have to give you priorities, that we have to look at everything we're spending on and create priorities. Is this what, this capital project, do we really want that? Do we really need a new courthouse? Do we really need a 15, or I think it's grown to $20 million track now for high-speed track to train first responders how to drive in a new building? We've got next year in our workshops, we need to look at not only expenses but priorities of how we're spending our money. Do you have a question for Ryan while he's here?
No, go ahead. This is what this is supposed to be about, is us having the discussion, so I can absolutely wait.
No, you're next. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
You have one. You said it 100% accurate. A lot of those funds are tied to specific funds. You see the Echo and Forever number? If we took the 300 out of the 354 million, if we took $36 million out of Echo and Forever and used it in the general fund, I don't think our taxpayers would be happy.
And I wouldn't suggest that.
So I don't think I know you're not. But all these others also come from specific funds which have specific purposes.
And some we could take. The council could decide that this priority is different.
Mm-hmm.
Heather Post.
So we talked about the mini budget and actually going through and discussing the budget and seeing where we can reduce. We had asked staff to come back with, number one, with general ways to reduce, and then ended up with saying, okay, can we reduce 3%? Can we reduce 5%? Why we're not having the mini budgets every year, I'm not sure as council. We've been talking about reducing and looking at efficiencies, and we've been, there's been several comments to, well, you figure it out. It's not my specific job to figure it out, especially if we're not having it presented and laid out to us in such a way where we can make those decisions. We talked about, hurricanes. We talked about COVID. We talk about all of these different things coming up, and that. But every year, these things come up. We're not talking about the recession anymore, thank goodness. But now we're talking about COVID, and now we're talking about all these other things. Every single year, there are things that we're going to have to address, and things that affect the county. And when we ask for various ways to reduce, and then, I'm proposed with beach ramp sweeping or portalet, reducing portalet cleaning on the beach from 7 days a week to 4 days. I'm a little offended by that as a council person, to be honest with you. It seems to me that there should be way more that could be presented to council in terms of efficiencies or reductions, especially when we did have the full conversation about the beach ramp sweeping, and that it's not really that big of a deal to have the sand on the beach for an additional day or two, and it's not a safety issue to do that. So why council is even discussing that part, I'm not sure. But I find it hard to believe that there's not other ways to be more efficient. And you know, it's consistently said it's not council's job to get into the weeds, and I agree, council. It's staff's job. It's each division knows what's going on in their division, and you know, I wasn't elected to know everything about everything in every division. That's what I'm supposed to rely on staff for, to present to us, and it just seems to me that there certainly are more options than I think we were presented with, and it saddens me for us to be at this point on the first budget hearing and saying, well, time's up. Well, I guess we'll have to wait till next year, and next year we'll do this process. I do want to address water quality. Obviously, I think everyone up here said that, you know, I think we've all said that water quality is very important, for sure. But one of the points that was brought up in the 7 or 8 options that we had for reducing the budget in that slide that we looked at the other day was in the environmental division, the money for grants every year, and those were the reductions that council agreed to. We are not, I want to make it very, very clear to the public that we are not, you know, sweeping clean or unclean, I guess, water quality in Volusia County by reducing that part. If you go back, and I know no one has time to go back, and that's the point, if you go back and listen to that section of the meeting, it was thoroughly asked several times to really ensure what the deal was. And those monies that we took away from that area were monies that division told us that are in there every year and not used. So, you know, I've been getting email after email after email saying that, you know, oh, now we're pulling money out of helping the environment and pulling money out of the environmental division. But it seems to me that we have that one instance. It seems to me that out of all the divisions that we have, that there's got to be more like that. And when specifically asked, that was the reasoning that we got, right? Was that the money is sitting there, but it's just not used every year. I think it was a total, let's see, do I see Ginger? It was, if I remember correctly, you can go back and look at the video, but if I remember correctly, it was like 90,000, 40,000, and 40,000 is used every year, and it was the 50,000 that we were taking or pushing back, or maybe the other way around. But either way, it was basically half, correct? Here comes Ginger.
Good evening,
Yes.
Ginger Adair, Environmental Management Director. Yes, ma'am, we originally budgeted $100,000 in that line item. Most recently, we budgeted $95,000. We haven't typically spent all of that money in any given year, mostly because, you know, the staff can deal with as many grants as we can deal with, and that's really what we can do, and opportunities change every year. So in the current budget year, we expect to spend about $30,000 in that line item. Last year, we spent more.
Okay, so you're hearing someone from that division saying they're expecting to spend $30,000 out of the $95,000, and we are saying as a council, okay, that's $65,000. That doesn't mean that they are not doing their job, for sure. That simply means that that is the money typically allotted every year, and I know you don't even need to get in the weeds, that there are other areas just like that where we could be making those reductions. So I absolutely want to point that out. I don't know how much more I can hit home that, you know, we listen to the United Way's, their ALICE report every year, and their ALICE report, which is the report of the poverty level in Volusia County, says that 45%, which is a large percentage of Volusia County, can't afford their monthly expenses. and then we're hit with COVID. But the county got, in totality, about $250 million from the federal government over this long term. And I just find it hard to believe that we can't figure out where to put those monies, and we are saying that we are so destitute that we have to tax the citizens who are hurting right now. You know, we look at stats, and we've had the stats from the website that Ryan showed us, and we've heard various statistics, a lot differing, but it comes down to we are the 6th highest taxing county in the state. And now, I know everyone's gonna say, well, but that's not the county. Well, okay, I understand, maybe that's not 6th highest in the state for property tax, but it's 6th highest in the state in totality of taxes. And when you look at it, that's not sales tax or anything like that, it's just all the municipalities, it's these extra taxing districts, it's the property tax, it's whatever it is. The point is, bottom line, it's the totality of all the taxes. And I, as a representative of you guys out there, I have to think of that when I look at raising taxes, especially when I'm looking at everything else I just said. And I also wanted to address the voting. You know, I appreciate people coming in and saying, we won't vote for you, or we will vote for you if you do whatever. And I have to tell you, you know, sometimes to my demise, but I think I have fully made decisions on the dais based on what I think is correct for the actual citizens and not based on politics. And so I am absolutely not making this decision based on politics. So I just want to put that whole excuse aside. That is absolutely not the reasoning that I am doing this. It is all of the above that I just stated. So whether someone wants to vote for me or not, I say you're welcome for trying to represent you in the way that I feel that I should be representing my constituents in this way. Without getting the full breakdown, line item by line item of the budget, there are a couple things that I can think of across the board, very easy. We talked about we absolutely have to give raises, so that's an expenditure, right? But the percentage, if we give raises by percentage, and I brought this up before, if we do that, number one, that adds to compression, or adds to problems with compression. And number two, everybody gets a different rate, right? So continuously over the years, if you give 4% raise, the people on the bottom get like, 20 cent raise, and the people on the top get quite a bit more, right? Every year. I understand, but why not give everybody the same amount across the board? And that's why I had brought up before, so much per hour raises to everyone in the county. And if we're looking at, trying to fill some positions, especially within public safety, I think that that's a good idea and a way to address that issue, but also a way to work to address the budget. When you have, that was a big complaint with our last county manager, not current, was when you give a 4% on $240,000, that's like $9,600 for the year. That's a lot of money. And then you're talking about the typical employee gets, $1,500, $1,600, $1,800, not so much, right? But that's 1 year. And then next year, you get another 4%. So now this poor guy gets, 3,000, and then this guy suddenly got 19 and a half. That's a big disparity, right? And not everybody makes that, for sure. That was the most, but a big disparity. And I think a good way to save money and a good way to help with compression and a good way to make it fair across the board in a time when we really need to be looking at those kinds of things. It seems to me just with 20 of those positions, you're looking at a couple $100,000. So over the course of a few years. So that was one idea. The other idea I had was to look at our training division. We've got 4 people out at the training division that we have with our fire training division.
Mr. Chair, point of order, please. We're getting away from where we're supposed to be right now. This is something we should talk about next year. We also, under Robert's rules, we're starting to go too long. I mean, one particular person. I agree it's something we can talk about in the future, but it's not something we're going to do between now and October 1st. We need to get back to the subject matter, please.
Mr. Chair,
Okay,
did anyone note when I actually started speaking? I did not.
I didn't.
So
I'm not timing it, and I would.
10 minutes now, but.
I would just say your point of order is out of order. She's speaking very much to what we're talking about here, and we've got 2 more people that want to talk and have their ideas and opinions heard.
Well, let me just say then, because other council members have said specifically, there's no way to reduce the budget. And then come back and said, oh, well, you're still talking about reducing the budget, so you come up with ways to reduce the budget. So I'm giving examples of ways to reduce the budget, and you don't want to hear the ways to reduce the budget. So I find that remarkable. Thank you.
Danny Robbins.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Post, all due respect, you were just talking about ways to increase the budget, especially when we're talking about across the board wages or wage increases using one-time money. How are we going to cover that? And I hope people are paying attention. How are we going to cover that in the future, next year and the years thereafter and thereafter, without raising taxes? That is a budget increase if we do that with one-time money. Second, we were talking about recession. If anybody was also paying attention, back in 2008, we were experiencing a little bit of what we're experiencing now. This time it's going to be worse, okay? Because we're dealing with coming back out of a pandemic and all these other struggles that we're dealing with. But regardless, we should always be looking at tightening this belt. But I'm looking for committal answers, Ms. Post, Mr. Brower, because I think it'd be very influential, not only in my vote, because maybe I'm missing something, but other council members' vote. If we go to rollback this year, with going into instant debt and dipping into our reserves, do we intend to go to rollback next year, yes or no? Think about it, don't answer that right now. How do we guarantee 550,000 people that next year and every year thereafter we won't have to raise taxes in order to pay for that debt that we would immediately be assuming at a full rollback rate? These are facts. How do we operate a fund just like we would at home and fund a budget while in debt with no savings and borrowing against other funds? Excuse me. How do we continue to fund our public safety budget, which takes up the majority of our overall budget? How do we pay for offering hiring, retention bonuses, increased wages, Ms. Post, get those static evac units, create a better work and life balance with no reserves and an operating at a deficit that will compound year after year after year? This is second grade math, literally. Last meeting, we cut economic development budget. Can you promise to continue to help our blue-collar families at full rollback? Can we commit, yes or no, to continue to fund our affordable housing, which 2 meetings ago we just committed to, okay? That initiative. And other government subsidies for our lower income folks, can we commit to that in debt with no reserves? And can we commit to the elderly who need it the most if we are in debt with no reserves by going to full rollback this year and every year thereafter? Can you commit to continue to fund our upside-down beach budget, our upside-down VOTRAN and public transportation budget while we are in debt with no reserves? How can we do that without a tax increase? Bueller?
Oh, I'll answer you.
Since public safety alone is responsible for the largest portion of that budget, who is willing to commit today to guarantee our public safety continues to get that increased funding that we have promised them? Continue to get those incentives and those bonuses, equipment, etc. None of us up here even want to go here with an increase. None of us. But the question is, how do we get there? These are big ticket items. We can't sit here and say we're decreasing when we're doing nothing but increasing it and calling it something different. We have to start paying attention. But we're ultimately at full rollback. And I'm one of the most frugal people up here, period, hands down. But a full rollback at this point would decimate us, in my opinion. And I'm looking for ways. Show me how. Because ultimately what we're doing is we're putting today's bills and making it tomorrow's debt for everybody. I'm looking for answers. I'm trying here. I think we all are. And I'm relying on your help for some more input. I'm just trying to figure it out. Thanks.
Mr. Brower, if I might respond, since he said Mrs. Post and specifically was asking me the question several times. May I respond?
Sure.
Thank you. First of all, with raises, not necessarily one-time monies, although, oh my goodness, $250 million, I think that could be beneficial in helping for sure. But we are giving percentage raises, and it is in the budget to give percentage raises. How is making it dollar raises across the board, and I'm not saying $1, but dollar amounts across the board, which in fact would reduce the budget. That's not one-time monies, and that's not doing something out of the box that we weren't already planning on doing. That's actually reducing the amount that Volusia County is putting forward in those areas. But I would love to, maybe I'll bet if we even looked at it, we can increase the hourly wages by more, and still be under that full scope of what we would be paying for 4% across the board. So, but I don't know, because we haven't looked at it. So, but it sounds feasible, right? But I guess my final question would be, how do we, Danny, Councilman Robbins, how do we continue to increase taxes when we don't have the courtesy to truly look at reductions across the board? We haven't had any kind of mini workshop where we have looked at the line items. We have just said to each other, well, you come up with it, but then nobody wants to hear it when someone comes up with it. So again, I would say, how do we continue to increase taxes on the citizens when we don't have the courtesy to truly look at reductions? And then also on the other side, again, I'm not for raising taxes any further until our priorities are shifted and we're truly providing the service in the areas of, especially of public safety, that I feel are adequate.
I'll just add to that, Heather and Councilman Robbins. How do we get there? We live within our means, just like everybody in this room does. If you don't have enough money at the end of the month, you don't go out to dinner. You don't buy that car. You don't get that new suit. Everybody in this county, whom we represent, has to live within their means. I have not suggested that we cut all of our reserves. I have suggested, and will continue, that we use some of our reserves, because people this year need tax relief. We've gone through 18 months of a pandemic that has decimated our economy, And Volusia County can come back strong because we do have good management. So you live within your means. You also, how do we cover these increases? You raise revenue. We've turned down we turned down $10 million. There's your $7 million, Ryan. We turned down $10 million in revenue from short-term rentals after hearing a program that would have managed all of the problems that went with it. We turned down naming rights because you thought it was crazy.
Mr. Brower, I think that $10 million would have gone into the advertising districts, would not have gone back.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna, let's use Robert's Rules of Order, Ben, and if you want to be acknowledged by the chair, please put your name up. And I bet, George, if we sat down with you, I just heard Ginger come up here and say, you know, this is where we can save $55 million. We have really smart directors. If we sat down, we can come up with an incentive program that every one of our directors say, listen, you don't spend all of your budget, you get a little piece of that, a percentage as a bonus, if you did that and still hit your mark for quality of service. There's things that we can do. Billy Wheeler.
First, wow, there's so much going on here. First of all, let me just, I would like to ask about that 10 million. We keep hearing about that. So, and I will tell you about the naming rights. I'm really excited about October when we're getting through all of this, going through that, because I think there's some real opportunities there. And it wasn't that we thought it was, I certainly didn't. I think it's a great idea to look at. It was just the timing, you know, to look at it during the middle of the summer to work on for the budget for this year. I didn't see it being able to play out in time. Absolutely think the idea is great, and I think we absolutely need to really delve into that in October. But so the 10 million on the short-term rentals, we keep hearing that. Can you please explain that?
Any additional taxes that are collected from tourism taxes by state law are required to go to those purposes that they're limited for. The advertising agencies and the resort tax goes to the Ocean Center.
Yeah. So that doesn't come to us in our general fund?
The tourism taxes
Yes.
do not go to the general fund.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is one. This is probably one of the hardest things because I'm telling you, we have worked on this, Jeff, and you know we all have. We've been really trying to fine tune and see where we can play out this. It's a horrible time. I will say we've done better than some counties for sure during COVID, and we've even heard that with our tourism for sure. So we have fared much better. And we always have the security of having those reserves, which to me, I know the importance of those, and the percentage of reserves that we have in each fund is critically important. I'm not willing to take from those, to borrow from those for promises of what we might be able to replace next year, because we don't have that. One of the problems that I think, Jeff, that we have, and council that we have, is it's like you said, you know, if the money's not there, everybody cuts back. As a member of one in my family, I'm a widow, you know, I know where I've had to cut back in different areas. But with the county, you know, we just got our census thing, and it looks like we've got an additional 50,000 people. That's, you know, we are forced to have more waste hauling. We are forced to make some of these recoveries on some of these expenses that are increasing, that are impacting Volusia County just because of the growth that's happening. And, you know, fuel, energy, and those, when you have those volumes of increase in people, plus the fact that, you know, we're a tourism area, we do have to have the employees to be able to support it. One of the problems with our employees right now, it's not so much that we don't have the money, we've got it basically set aside. It's just hard finding employees. All of our services are having a hard time getting employees. So it's not just in Volusia County, that's statewide, or United States wide. I feel like we really went through everything last time. I was really hoping to get further down. When we're talking about taking that kind of money to fill the gap in our budget out of our reserves, and then knowing that next year what we're going to be hit with the Sunrail and some of the other things that we have, I'm having a real hard time being able to look at that and think that that's a wise decision for the council if each and every one of us have citizens that we're answering to. And believe me, the room is full and we've heard everybody, but we also have people that are calling us, you know, and saying, hey, you're doing a good job or whatever, we're okay with it. So we have all of that. I don't think anybody up here is making a decision on such a critical item as this, thinking, oh my gosh, if we don't vote this way, we're not going to get voted in. Well, number one, I'm not running again in 2022, so that doesn't affect me at all. But you have to understand, I'm a taxpayer too. So whatever we're doing, it's hitting me personally. I just don't think, I know that I don't feel comfortable going any further down than the 5.3812 unless I can hear something realistic. And yeah, I think next year we need to get a jump on this really early. And like you said, really go through these items where we can understand it. Take a department at a time and go line to line. But I feel like we have come down, we have reduced, we have listened to the people, and then we have to be good servants of the future. And that's kind of where I'm standing right now.
I got to ask you a question. I can't let this stand. $10 million from short-term rentals. You just said it's really not doing the county any good. I'm putting words in your mouth, so
That is not what I said.
Okay, because we get a sales tax from them. Also, everybody that comes down with and stays in a short-term rental goes to restaurants, they go to bars, they spend money, they increase the economy for all of the local businesses. Okay, tell me what you did say then.
What I said was any additional tourism taxes go to the advertising agencies and to the resort. The resort tax goes to the Ocean Center. Tourism taxes do not go to the general fund. The $10 million number, I'm not even sure. I believe that was a number that someone was saying in public comment about short-term rentals. I don't think that's not a number we produced. I'm just saying that if there are additional tourism taxes, that's where they go. If there are additional sales taxes, they go to the state. We do share in a part of the sales taxes, and that would be a small increase to us if there's additional sales taxes, but the tourism taxes go to those specific purposes, not the general fund.
Yeah, I think the number came from one of the, like Airbnb or somebody that collects the tax. They keep figures on how much per county they're collecting.
We actually collect, we have agreements with Airbnb and
Right.
VRBO where we're already collecting.
I know.
So there's no loss with those ones.
Well, except that we outlawed it. And so they can't come stay anymore. We said, you're not welcome. Danny Robbins.
Chair, respectfully, they're doing it anyway, whether that law is there or not, just like speeding. And I get the complaints to prove that. But getting back to living within our means, and this is going to sting, and it's going to give us all a little bit of humble pie, including myself, because I supported some of these initiatives. If we took 5 million plus minus in for this new construction, okay, and we spent 18, 19, $20 million, Ryan, correct, somewhere in there, okay, in new initiatives that we, the people, voted for, how are we, the people, living within our means? all of us, not one person up here ran on raising taxes. But how can we drill down on this? Everybody is up here, no matter where you're at, is racking our brains on this stuff. And we hear that it is not our job to look at this stuff. It is the staff's job. And then when we can't find anything, then it's back to our job. We have the number 15th guy in the nation, and probably shortly behind him, as our CFO, and we're lucky to have him. We have all drilled down on this stuff. George is sending emails out at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We're all counting those popcorn dots on our ceiling, trying to figure this out because of what we're dealing with, that we have no control over coming out of Washington and the runaway spending. And we're trying to mitigate it here locally. But are we part of the problem? I don't know. I don't know the answer. I wish I did. But what I don't want to see is this divide good, hardworking people. Not now, not anytime. And I just want to see us get on track and look at the future and not look at something that could be very detrimental to my son and his kids and my grandkids. I don't live day to day. I don't live paycheck to paycheck, and I don't expect the people of Volusia County to be put in that position either. Thank you.
Thank you. And the flip side of that is I don't want my kids to live in a county, I want them to be able to stay here and to be able to afford to stay here, afford to buy a home and pay the taxes. George Rechtenwald.
Yeah, thank you. First off, as far as the mini budgets, we're all in favor of that, and we'll make sure that occurs early on. We will start. Aaron, could you go ahead and put up operating expenditures by department chart up there? There you go. Thank you. I just want to point out, especially, and I think this needs to be next year when we work on this together. When you look at this chart, if you take out public protection type services, which a very clear message this year that we really needed to focus on that, and we have focused on that. And if you're talking about tax funds that or departments that derive a lot of their or most of their revenue from property taxes, you're only looking at that chart there at growth and resource management. You're only looking at community services, and within community services, it'd be like Parks and Rec, Votran. You've got veterans, which we don't do enough for. Then you can look down a little farther. Of course, you got leadership there. You can see that amount. We look at that. You got business services down in the corner there. That's a good portion of that's IT and facilities. And then as you go around the horn, now reason that's why we were, by the way, all the way down to the level of sweeping ramps, because there's just such a limited area, and that would be a little sliver over there in Public Works. The only part of Public Works that has any tax money like that is the beach. All the rest of Public Works, as we explained earlier, is not funded that way. And then you're into areas that we don't have the control that we once had, like the tax collector, supervisor of elections, property appraiser. They all are in charge of their own budgets now. So if you're not going to get into these other areas, we really are going to have to talk about service delivery model changes, upgrades using technology, whatever we can do in these public protection areas, because they are a huge part of what we do. They are the most important part of what we do. So, but it's also very, very, very expensive and complex. So it needs a lot of attention all the time. And it's also where our people, a huge amount of our people are in these areas. You heard a guy today from corrections. He's one of over 400 officers that we have. So whatever we do, you're doing it times 400. And that's even larger in some of the other areas. So it's not that we don't want to. We certainly do. We're certainly aware of it, and we work really hard at it. As far as raises, the proposed budget has $1 an hour for everybody up to $25 an hour. What happens at $25 an hour? Well, that's the 4%. So from that point, it was 4, but everybody underneath that, that's $52,000 a year. They'll be getting $1 an hour, which in some cases is substantially more than a 4% raise. As we get down lower to our most needy employees who need that money, I agree with Ms. Post, and that's why we wanted to do the $1 an hour so they would have a higher percentage raise. And we'll continue to look at that. We have to, and we to retain the people that we have, and to bring new people in. That's just mandatory. One other thing, I mean, I will point out, it's been the money, the federal money's been talked about. We've put millions, tens of millions of dollars right back into the community in the form of grants and assistance and rental assistance. We gave $15 million to the cities. So, and also remember the cities themselves as a group received over $100 million the second round. So when we're doing this, I think we really owe it to everyone to work with the cities as well. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, I think there's potential for working together and maybe seeing if we can consolidate some things or get rid of some overlap there, because as pointed out, when you add their taxes to ours, that's what drives us up quite a bit. And I know every single city but one, I believe, is proposed a flat millage rate budget as well. Where they end up, I'm sure some of them may be debating that right now. So, and why is that? Because their issues are the same. They have the same issues with people. Their budgets, by the way, are amazingly similar. Probably in the neighborhood of 60% of their budget has to do with the public protection part of their budget. So they're in the same boat we are, of trying to find people, protect the citizens, and that's what we face. And again, none of this is done, it's all done very carefully with an eye towards being efficient. Everybody does know that, and I think we have to go greater, and I'd be happy to have a much more in-depth budget hearings, mini budgets, and we'll start good and early in the year because we do need that direction. But I do think you have to have more on the table than just growth management, leadership, business services. We have to have a much bigger look if you're going to make any meaningful change on that. And I have to also say, we did full rollback to the general fund 2 years ago. Last year, we rolled back every other fund but the general fund, and we did a partial rollback on the general fund last year. Again, so it's not like we just run off and expand. We've actually probably not expanded to the point where in some cases areas have suffered, no doubt about it. And that's what finds us there. We've kicked the can in some cases, and that's what I'm trying to avoid doing right now. When we rolled back 2 years ago, some of those problems, they're still here because we didn't have the money when we rolled back. So now they're here. I think made some very wise choices with COVID money in terms of putting it on all public protection capital projects, the remaining money. And a good portion of the ARPA will end up in that same category. So as we go forward. So again, I welcome more mini budgets and more depth, and we'll get in there because it is the most important thing we really, as management, do. So we'll make sure of that.
Barbara.
Thank you, Chair. Like Councilwoman Post, what I wanted to share was when I ran for this office, I ran, and I hope my District 1 understands, I ran to hear you and fairly consider what would be the best choice based on the information provided, right? So, but also when the chair came on, I recognized the opportunity for maybe a different look, some fresh eyes, which fresh eyes is what I believe I brought initially, and I looked for the same savings that he's looking for, right? And I said, well, maybe through different eyes, we'll get to some other transparency. He'll see something I haven't seen, because I asked a lot of the same questions he's asking now, maybe a little different angle on it, but still, like, where are the efficiencies? Talking to the auditors, where did you find holes? Where did you find opportunities? And what kept coming back to me is we have an efficient staff that's been doing without. So unless we change some things where it's more automated, or we just are going to do without certain services, right? We've got to determine what we're willing to accept and what we're willing to sacrifice, right? That's my view of it. What I also want to say is when I came on in 2018, I guess I went to the budget meeting in 2018 during the election. And not one person from the public attended that public meeting. So I want to applaud each of you, right, for being here, for caring, for giving your time. And regardless of the outcome, it matters that you're here and that we've heard you, and I respect you regardless of where we end up. The chair, I respect his opinion. And I think it's really important till we get to a point of transparency and trust and understanding, whether we agree or not, okay? Because what I want you to know is how I come to the decision I come to. We may not agree on it, but you're gonna know how I got there, and then you make a decision from there. I don't present myself to you based on electing me. I present myself to you because I care, and I want the same thing for our seniors, for my son, for my grandson, and I want a Volusia County that works, right, and can meet the needs. I've got an 80-year-old mother here in DeLand that is gonna have an increase, most likely. Yeah, it's a small increase, but she's on a fixed income. I get it, right? I really think that it matters, but I also know I'd much rather for her to have this $30 increase this year than a $150 increase next year because we cut back this year. I'd rather take a small bite today than be impacted by a large amount that, and next year we don't know what else may come about. But what I would like to do is what the chair suggested is really delve into the line by line for the upcoming and position ourselves to be ready for, barring any major, emergencies or catastrophic issues. I mean, who knew what happened in New York would happen, right? Get ready for a flash flood, and you think you're gonna be walking in your rubber boots in high water, not drowning in a basement. I'm just saying, we don't know what's ahead of us, so we still have to prepare. But for me, I ask for your indulgence for this year because I think we don't have enough information to really be able to do what you're asking. In the best faith for where we are and what we know is coming and what we're concerned about. And I get it. You can take a risk one way or the other, but honestly, for me and mine, I'd be concerned to make that choice at this time. I asked for a 3% decrease, and we were able to get to 3.8. I ask for your indulgence, because I think that's the best at this point in time, unless there's something that's unforeseen, that somebody's found the pot of gold that can get us that additional $7 million. I'm open to hear it, but you're always gonna know how I got here, why I'm here, and I respect you, and I ask you for your consideration. Thank you.
Ben Johnson.
I'm gonna make a motion to move approval to tentatively adopt the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. The general fund ad valorem tax rate of 5.3812 mils. The library fund ad valorem rate of 0.5174 mils. Volusia Forever Fund tax rate of 0.20 mils. Volusia Echo Fund 0.2. Mosquito Control Fund 0.1781. Ponce Inlet Port Authority ad at 0.0845. Municipal Service District Fund at 2.1083. Silver Sands Bethune Beach MSD Fund ad valorem tax rate of 0.0144 mils. Fire Rescue District Fund at 3.8412 mils.
Okay.
There is a specific way by trim statute that we have to proceed if the council is ready to proceed. I'll leave it at that. So if we're ready, Aaron can come up and
Each one individually, I think. But
with percentages above rollback.
Aaron, he made a motion, Billy was willing to second it. Billy, did I call you Willie? Pardon? Well, he's going to tell us.
So you can vote on the rates collectively, but I do have to read the amount over the rollback rate for each one. The only one that I would suggest you vote on separately would be Volusia Forever.
Okay, thank you for doing that, because the public has no idea when they just hear those rates if it's rollback or not.
So I'll read each of the rates in now. The fiscal year 2021-22 operating millage rate for the countywide taxing authority, Volusia County General Fund, is 5.3812 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 5.2025 mils by 3.43%. The fiscal year 21-22 operating millage rate for the countywide taxing authority, Volusia County Library Fund, is 0.5174 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 0.4928 mils by 4.99%. The fiscal year 21-22 operating millage rate for the countywide taxing authority, Volusia Forever Fund, is 0.2000 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 0.1002 mils by 99.6%. The fiscal year 21-22 operating millage rate for the countywide taxing authority, Volusia Echo Fund, is 0.200 mils. The rollback rate for that fund is 0 because it was not levied last year. The fiscal year 21-22 operating millage rate for the taxing authority Mosquito Control Fund is 0.1781 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 0.1710 mils by 4.15%. The fiscal year 21-22 operating millage rate for the taxing authority Ponce Inlet and Port Authority Fund is the rollback rate of 0.0845 mils. The fiscal year 21-22 operating millage rate for the taxing authority municipal service district fund is 2.1083 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 1.9923 mils by 5.82%. The fiscal year 21-22 operating millage rate for the taxing authority Silver Sands Bethune Beach Municipal Service District Fund is 0.0144 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 0.0138 mils by 4.35%. The fiscal year 21-22 operating millage rate for the taxing authority Fire Rescue District Fund is 3.8412 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 3.6288 mils by 5.85%.
Aaron, could you reread the Echo Fund? I know you said 0 to 0.2, but I didn't hear the percentage.
There is no percentage on the Echo Fund. Trim confirmed that we don't announce a percentage for that because it was the rollback is 0, and so it's actually an infinite.
It's 100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excel gives you a div 0 error, but
okay. Well, making sure because we don't want to have
absolutely
any technical.
Yeah, Trim confirmed that.
I'm really not comfortable with taking each one of these together as a slate. We can do it whatever the pleasure of the council is, but I think we could go through them quickly and vote on each one separately. Doesn't matter to you? Does it matter to the state?
Nope, not at all.
But the motion on the table was for the slate.
You want to do them separate? I'll do them separate.
Okay.
Got to give it a second.
Pardon me? The second says that's okay. Danny Robbins.
Chair, just before we go through that, I don't know if this is out of order, out of line, but I'm trying here. Do you guys have a number that we can get back to better than where we're at? Jeff, Heather, excuse me, Chair, Councilman, Woman Post. Some wiggle room where we can do this safely. In what number are you looking at other than full rollback? I think we can all agree that having 0 reserves and going into debt is not a good idea. And this is a last ditch effort to just hear something. Can I get a committal, or can I hear it? Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. Yeah, I guess my compromise is full rollback because I believe that we could do it and I'm willing to work the next 2 weeks until the next meeting if that's what we vote on, and I think we have to have the next meeting in 2 weeks to look at the budget and make the cuts.
Not my motion.
I don't. Well, he asked me a question, so I'm answering him. I don't want to go through all of our reserves either. I'm willing to use some of the reserves because the reason that's my bottom line is because this was one of the toughest 18 months that Volusia County has faced with COVID-19, with people out of work, people losing their homes, people losing their jobs. I think we owe it to them. So I'm willing to do the work to get there.
And the only reason I said that, it just doesn't use some of our reserves, Chair. It uses all of our reserves and puts us at a 30.
Not if we make the necessary cuts to avoid that. And that's what I said. I'm willing to spend the next 2 weeks doing that.
I retract my my statement. Thank you.
Well, I didn't get a chance to respond.
You can respond.
Thank you. So my response would really be the same as well. How do we continue to increase taxes when we don't have the courtesy to truly look at reductions across the board? And again, I will say, the few times that I've attempted to provide ways that we can look at making reduction in costs, council members have silenced me. So until that changes, I'm not okay with continuing to increase the taxes. So that would be my response.
Okay, so the first of, is it 9 is general fund.
Do you want me to read each one individually and you can vote?
Well, we have to get a motion and a second for each one too.
So the general fund is 5.3812 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 5.2025 mils by 3.43%.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the 5.3812 by Johnson, second by Robbins. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Aye. Wizard 2. So the motion carries. Is somebody asking a question?
I was saying my microphone wasn't on, sorry.
Oh.
I just turned it on.
Motion carries 4-2. Number 2.
Volusia County Library Fund is 0.5174 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 0.4928 mils by 4.99%.
Motion to approve.
Motion to improve the library fund with a 5% greater than rollback by Robbins, I believe it was, second by Wheeler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I am opposed. Was Post opposed?
Yes.
I didn't know if it was you or Barbara. I will say that I love the library. I think it's about books, and it's become about so much more, including welfare now, and I think that's an area where we can cut. Number 3. Go ahead, number 3.
Volusia Forever Fund is 0.2000 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 0.1002 mils by 99.6%.
Is there a motion to accept?
Second.
Motion to accept by Wheeler, second by Johnson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That one passes unanimous due to the wishes of the voters. Volusia Echo.
Volusia Echo Fund is 0.2000 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 0 mils.
Motion to approve, Gertman.
Motion to approve Echo by Gertman, second by Wheeler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0, unanimous. Number 5.
Mosquito Control Fund is 0.1781 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 0.1710 mils by 4.15%.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion to approve by Wheeler, second by Gertman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
Opposed, yeah.
Motion carries 4-2.
Ponce Inlet and Port Authority Fund is the rollback rate of 0.0845 mils.
Motion to approve by Wheeler, second by Robbins. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That is the full rollback, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that one is unanimous. It's probably the smallest fund? No? What's the smallest fund?
Silver
we're
Sands.
voting on?
Silver Sands Bethune, MSD.
Okay. So that one passes unanimous, Carissa. Number 7?
The Municipal Service District Fund is 2.1083 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 1.9923 mils by 5.82%.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Johnson, second by Wheeler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Motion carries 4-2.
The Silver Sands Bethune Beach Municipal Service District Fund is 0.0144 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 0.0138 mils by 4.35%.
And is there a motion? Motion to approve by Wheeler, second by,
I'll second.
who was that? Johnson? Robbins? Second by Robbins, number 8. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Motion passes 4-2 or 4-2? Number 9.
The Fire Rescue District Fund is 3.8412 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 3.6288 mils by 5.85%.
Motion to approve by Johnson. Second by Gertman. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah, did you vote for that or against it? I should have done these roll call because I can't hear, but I'm voting for fire rescue because until we get 3 men in a station. I think the fund is healthy now, according to the county manager, but I want to see those guys be safe and so what, but I don't know what the vote was. If it was, did you vote in favor or against?
5-1 with Miss Post voting against.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And I do have a comment on that, Mr. Chair.
Please.
On the no vote. So certainly that fund needs funds. But we have not, with the funds that we've had, that has not been the priority. And so until that changes, I am not willing to tax more until I see that coming to fruition and starting to happen. Certainly if there was discussion about doing that, then I'd love to chat.
Understood. That brings us to the last point of business for the night. Two
more. So I have the tentative budget that needs to be voted on, and I'll read that into record. We have an operating budget of $960,999,531 and a non-operating budget of $185,307,854.
Motion to approve by Wheeler.
Second.
Second by Johnson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-2.
And then the final thing would be to vote on the second public budget hearing. Staff recommends a date of September 21st at 6 p.m. as that is a normal council day. But you do have to hold the hearing within 15 days of this hearing.
Move approval.
And we have to advertise for how long? 2 weeks?
2 to 5 days before the hearing, we have to have an advertisement in a locally circulated paper.
Okay. There's still, never mind. Okay, is there a motion for approve the meeting on
I made the
September
motion,
21st?
Mr. Chair.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Motion by Post, second by Wheeler. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, gentlemen, for your work. Thank you, George, for answering questions, and seeing no other questions, this meeting's adjourned.